Welcome back to another edition of the Rodcast. Oh, thank God. It is a freak flag, feel good, fake it till you make it. Ric Flair, woo! Football 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. Thank you guys for joining us. We are jam-packed. Got a lot to get into. We'll just discuss a little bit of the preseason game last night, but we'll talk a lot of Texas football, go behind the burnt orange curtain. Next segment, courtesy of my man Patrick Davis, the Idea Now. We have lots of sound. Player availability yesterday. Kelvin Banks, who has been named as the sole Longhorn on a lot of preseason All-American lists. So we'll hear from the All-American Kelvin Banks. We'll also hear from Michael Taft Daddy. I also spoke to the media yesterday, so we'll get into that next segment. Talk some Texas football. Also, I want to get into Andrew McCuba a little bit. He spoke to my man Alex Okafor on his podcast, the Behind the Face Mask podcast. Go check it out. It's actually pretty good. And they do there's a conversation. There's a sit down, and there's really some good nuggets there about Andrew McCuba and his background. We'll do that. We'll also talk Dallas Cowboys on the show. Great piece in the Washington Post. I believe it was Jason Lockenfor spoke anonymously to coaches, to execs, to some agents, different folks around the league about the Dallas Cowboys and about how they're handling their contract negotiations with their quarterback and with their wide receiver one. We'll get into that. Also, Stephen Jones had a statement about the Dak Prescott contract negotiations. Dak Prescott recently said something. It's crazy. Just yesterday, I believe Patrick and I were talking about how the buzz around the Dak Prescott contract situation has died down, and there's been a lot of talk, of course, about CeeDee Lamb because he's the one holding out. Well, I got some nuggets for you and some quotes from around the league and from Dak Prescott himself and from Stephen Jones about the Dak Prescott contract situation with the Dallas Cowboys. So we'll dive into that coming up here in this segment, get into some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. Coming up in the next hour, we got ESPN's top 100 list of the best college football players. We'll see how many Longhorns made that list. We'll also get into Pro Football Focus, their top 50 best football players in college football, and we'll see how many Longhorns made that list as well, and how many Texas opponents coming up on the schedule this year they'll have to face that made the list and were recognized. We'll do that. We'll also get into Rod's rant. We'll talk about how Sark schematically, strategically, and tactically, how he can now make some changes, adjustments, some tweaks to the offense, heading into the SEC with the issues now at running back, losing your starting running back CJ Baxter, losing a depth piece at like Christian Clark. How can we anticipate that Sark is going to deal with that? I think I can give you some ideas as to what Sark might do and what he could do, maybe what he should do in adjusting to the loss of his starting running back. We'll dive into that coming up in Rod's rant. We also will get into your usual favorites, of course. We got what the facts, what the stats. We got the topic for the big fat poll today. Who said that? We got off the record. We're jam-packed. Before we do any of that, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew because he's one of the hardest working members of the ARN family. Got a hustler spirit, period. Not sure what he's paid, just pretty damn sure he's underpaid. Ain't no 401k for this hustler, and he's a hustle man of many talents. It's our friend, co-host, and neighbor. It is Patrick Davis, y'all. What's going on, Patrick? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. You see, I'm wearing my Hawaiian shirt day for National Hawaiian Shirt Day.
That's a thing?
It is. Now, there's a reason why it's a thing.
There you go.
There's a reason why it's a thing. It is the third Friday in August, and it celebrates the day that Hawaii became a state.
It
does have historical significance. It wasn't just a person that likes Hawaiian shirts. Let me history test you. Do you know what year Hawaii became a state? Alaska became a state the same year.
Wow. Oh, that's gonna be that's no way I'm gonna get that. Let's go for 1947.
1959. Not bad. It wasn't bad.
Way off. I'm way off.
Not bad, but 1959, those became a state, which it's still like, I'm terrible with years and dates. I always have been. Did not do me great in school. But yeah, that one threw me off when I was like, wait, they changed the flag in 1960? It feels like I've seen things with flags before 1960, but
it just feels, I guess that's a great point. I didn't realize. I mean, that's a lot more recently than I thought. I would have thought.
No, but Alaska did it in January, and then August 21st was when 1959 is when Hawaii became a state. So wearing the Hawaiian shirt.
Start today.
And then I found out this is my shirt that I wear, that I get more compliments on this shirt from random dudes, and it's confusing to me to a point because it's just guys will come and be like, hey man, nice shirt. or hey man, I like your shirt. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. But I'll be like at the store and someone will just say it. And you're like, that's nice. But why are you like, I don't compliment other dudes on their clothing very often. I don't really.
Is it
strangers.
genuine or are they mocking you?
I don't know. But this is what I had to look up. So I looked it up because then I started to question because there's pink flamingos on the shirt. So you can't say it's right.
Guys being dudes. I don't know. What is it?
And so I was trying to look up if pink flamingos were code for something because I was like, in today's society, sometimes these things are codes, and then I'm wearing something and I don't even know what I'm wearing. And all I could find was that apparently it means that you're a swinger on a cruise if you put a pink flamingo on your door. But I don't know how far that transcends. I don't know if that's the aisles of HEB.
That's definitely not translating into
and I feel like I'm not exactly the dude that most swingers are coming up to. They're just a single guy in a store going up. That's not. We're both by ourselves as men. This is not swinging. This is something completely different.
Well, it could be just a different kind of swinging. I mean, you just one you're not necessarily into, but it still could be going down.
But still, I have no idea why I get. And it's one of those things. It's mostly you're looking for compliments from women for your clothing and your looks. It's almost always a dude who will be like, "Hey man, nice shirt." I'm like, it's a weird thing. I like the shirt. That's why I wear it, but. Apparently it's a favorite among random
I would
dudes.
say that yes. I mean, obviously if you're heterosexual, you're looking for compliments from women, but if you're a gay dude and you're looking for compliments from a dude, or if you're a lesbian, you're looking for compliments from a woman.
Yeah.
But I would say compliments from any sex, doesn't matter what your obviously preference is. It still feels good. Like I'll take a compliment from anybody.
It does.
Compliment from a dude, compliment from a woman, compliment from anybody, from a dog. I'll take the damn compliment.
I will too.
Even if I know it's fake, I don't give a damn.
The numbers started to skew in a way that were concerning to me at a point because it was like 20-1, and you're like, this seems like very much. It feels like there should be a couple more because they're happening at random places. They're not like. It's not like
it is random.
It's weird, and it's like I don't compliment. I don't know. Complimenting women's clothing seems weird. It's a man. I don't know if I could pull that off at an HEB.
Oh, you good? You can always pull that off.
Walk down as, hey lady, nice shirt. I don't know if
I think it'll be a blouse.
I don't know if I can pull that off. So, but that is
women will take the compliment. Even if trust me,
they
will take the compliment. They'll take it.
As long as you just don't follow them down the aisle for like 3 aisles.
Don't stalk them.
Yeah, okay.
Because she'll make sure you're not stalking her too. She'll be looking at you like, okay, complimenting me. Is he stalking
me? You can't do it in a shirt with giant pink flamingos on it either.
No,
I agree. Shirt.
It stands out too much. Everybody remembers you. And then even if you're not stalking her, you're so memorable and that she'll think you're stalking her. She'll be like, that dude's stalking me. Because that's all she can see is the pink flamingos around the store. So either way, you're screwed.
There you go. But it's happy Hawaiian Shirt Day. Happy Founders Day for Hawaii is what they call it.
Nice. I like that.
For there. Let me introduce you to my co-host. He's a proud alumni of DBU. He's got more papers than Dunder Mifflin and watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He is the new Rod Father of Boston Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
Appreciate the intro, brother. Thank you for that. All right, we got a lot to get into, of course, on the show. We'll get into some NFL news, notes, and nuggets to start, and then we'll dive into some Texas football conversation and hear from the players themselves when we go behind the burnt orange curtain. But first, let's not waste any time. Let's get updated, educated, and informed on all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros will look to continue their run as the hottest team in baseball and add to their 8-game win streak as they take on the struggling White Sox tonight. The Astros have a .617 win percentage since April 27th and now have a 3-game lead in the AL West, while in comparison, the White Sox have a win percentage of .260 in that time and are 15 games behind the second worst team in the MLB. Spencer Arrighetti will get the call for the Astros following up a tallying double-digit strikeouts in his last 2 outings. And the Rangers went to the bottom of the ninth, tied for the second straight game, but were not able to pull out the victory last night as the Twins manufactured a run on a sacrifice fly to win 3-2. Cody Bradford pitched 6 solid innings, and Adolis Garcia put together a 3-hit game, but it wasn't enough as the Rangers dropped the series opener. Andrew Haney takes the mound tonight with the Rangers hoping to even the series. In the NFL, the Eagles got the win in their preseason matchup against the Patriots 14-13 after a late 2-point conversion for Philadelphia. This Saturday, the Texans will take on the Giants in Houston at noon, and the Cowboys play a late game against the Raiders at 9 p.m. in Oakland. And the Atlanta Falcons add another defensive player after making the trade for Matthew Judon by signing safety Justin Simmons to a 1-year deal. Simmons now joins Jesse Bates to form one of the best safety combinations in the NFL. And that is your Horn Headlines.
Yeah, the Falcons to me. Thank you for the horn headlines, by the way, Patrick. The Falcons seem to me like a no-brainer now to win that division.
I mean,
Like it's there's
if
nothing else in that. I mean,
100
Tampa Bay.
Tampa
I
Bay's
would say
not
Tampa
bad,
Bay's got
but
a shot. They
again,
got a shot,
Tampa Bay,
outside shot.
they have the big
They lost
question.
Dave Canales though.
That is the big
That's what worries
question.
me.
That is the big
Yeah.
question there. I think Atlanta, if they stay healthy, is clearly the front runner right now.
Even if they get some nicks, I still think that right now the way it's setting up. I mean, think about offensively. You got Bijan there. You got Kyle Pitts there. You got Drake London. Even if something happens to Kirk Cousins, not going wood. You got Michael Penix.
Michael Penix behind him, yeah.
You got to get a first-round quarterback you drafted there. I mean, their offensive line actually is also underrated. Their interior offensive line is one of the best interior offensive lines in all of football, which makes their offensive line one of the best in football. And now they're loading up on defense. And I believe they hired Jimmy Lake as their defensive coordinator. Remember the guy from Washington? Used to team up with PK. He was kind of PK's better half at one point. And he is now the defensive coordinator there. And the way I don't know, the more I look at that defense, and you just said they may have the best, if not one of the best, safety tandems and duos in the league now. And they play a ton. And AJ Terrell, people don't really know him because they don't watch a lot of Atlanta football. But AJ Terrell is one of the best cover corners in the league. And he's a press cover corner. Remember I told you there aren't many of those guys. Yeah. Those guys are like, endangered species in the league. Guys that can play press man. He plays press man. They play a lot of press man. Raheem Morris coming in there. I guarantee you he's gone up the amount even more. And now they got one of the best safety duos. Jesse Bates, who's there now. He plays deep third. I'll give you a random stat about him. He plays deep third more than any safety in the league other than Quandre Diggs, like more just deep snaps. Like you can argue he's one of the best center fielders. He's not the best center fielder in the game today. And they got one of the best cover corners. And now they got Justin Simmons, a Pro Bowl safety to add to the mix too. I don't know. I like that Atlanta defense right now.
Do you know if Lake or Raheem Morris is going to call the plays? Do we know yet?
I don't know. I don't know if he will. I think it'll be his defense in terms of he'll be the architect of it, but I don't think he'll call the play. I think he might let Jimmy Lake call the plays. I could be wrong, but
we'll find out. Week one when we actually get to the games. But
no, that's a good question. I'm not sure about that. That's a really good. I never thought about it, but and then I like the guy was Zach Robinson.
Zach Robinson, right? Is the OC from part of that.
In the McShanahan system there, but man, on defense, pretty much at every level. Go look at their defense now. They got Richie. They got another DB, Richie Grant, who's really good too. So this secondary to me is one of the best secondaries in the league now. Because Mike Hughes at a cornerback. They got Caden Ellis now at linebacker. Matthew Judon, as we talked about yesterday, the guy's got damn near 50 sacks in the last 4 years. Remember Grady Jarrett at defensive tackle is a really good player. I don't know. I think Atlanta, that's a no-brainer for me that they're going to win that division. If they don't, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, that's a real disappointment at this point.
Yes, agree. Because New Orleans going to bring you nothing. New Orleans they're not bringing anything to the table there. And then you go look at the rest of, and
then it's the Panthers who
Carolina.
Like I think
Carolina will be improved.
But improvement is not the worst.
Yes. Like improvement. Win 6 games. That was 7 games.
That was like when I was looking at the White Sox, their stats, and that's that mind-blowing stat to me. They are 15 games behind the second worst team in MLB.
Damn.
So they're 15 games behind not being the worst team.
It's a whole nother level of suck. Like it's a whole nother. That's like when the Lions went winless. Like that's a whole nother level. You can be bad, and then you're like, dude, that is
crazy bad.
Yeah. So they're one of the worst. They might be one of the worst teams of all time. Then
I mean, they're up there.
I wonder what that stat is. Yeah, they got to be one of the worst teams of all time to be that pitiful. All right, there you go. Also, let's get into the preseason game a little bit, and then we'll get to this Cowboys discussion. This is the lesson I learned from that preseason game last night. Quarterbacking is hard. It is. The Patriots quarterbacks, guys, they were combined 14 of 29. All their combined QBs of Drake May versus the Eagles, Patriots quarterbacks, Drake May, Joe Milton, Jacoby Brissett, and Bailey Zappi. They ended up being 14 of 29. Zappi, I guess, looked the best out of them, but I mean, Drake May was 6 of 11, not terrible, but 47 yards, 4.3 yards per attempt, 65 passer rating, took a sack, did have a rushing touchdown. Joe Milton, 2 of 7, 20 passing yards, 2.9 yards per attempt, 39.6 passer rating. He got sacked twice. Jacoby Brissett, 3 of 7, 17 passing yards, yards per attempt, 2.4, passer rating of 10.7, and a 1 interception. So it wasn't great. Then you got Bailey Zappi, who had 3 of 4, 29 yards, 7.3 yards per attempt. This passer rating was actually pretty good of 94, but they combined for a passer rating of 44, 14 of 29, passing yards 113, and 3.1 yards per attempt. 0 passing touchdowns and 1 interception. It's going to be a tough sled. It's going to be just a tough road ahead for the Patriots and their quarterback situation. It's going to be bad.
Yeah.
It ain't going to be good.
No.
Not at all.
No, it's not. It's going to be, ugly. But I don't think they're, I mean,
no, Drake May will get better.
They're hoping Drake May is going to get better.
And honestly, I think, Bailey Zappi is probably a decent backup for you. And Jacoby Brissett is too. So I'm not saying they're going to look that bad, but my point is like quarterbacking is hard in this league, man. It ain't easy. And I mean, those are guys who've been in the league for a while. There's a high level prospects like Drake May in the preseason when things are vanilla looks, and still struggling. I say Eagles quarterbacks actually look pretty good, but Kenny Pickett does not throw the football downfield. He was 11 of 13 for 67 yards.
Yeah, 5.2 yards per carry. And there's the crazy stat. He did that
4 sacks.
And 4 sacks. He's getting he's not throwing downfield and took 4 sacks. You're supposed to do one or the other.
That's right. If you're throwing it downfield, it takes a little bit longer. So you're like, all right, I took a couple of sacks.
But
my yards per attempt was 9-something yards per attempt. It's like, nope. I'm with you. I don't know how that works. How's
that is holding onto the ball and then checking down.
Oh man, how about this in 20? And this goes to this stat here. In 24, Kenny Pickett starts. He led the Steelers to more than 20 points just 6 times. 6 times in 24. So the Steelers also went 14-10 in those games. Mike Tomlin is just a hell of a coach, is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
But in the first half of that game, he dropped back 23 times. He only threw the ball more than 10 yards downfield 4 times out of the 23 dropbacks, and he was 0 of 4. And when he threw the ball more than 10 yards downfield, he had 11 first half completions. He averaged 0.7 air yards. So he averaged less than a yard through the air on these 11 first half completions. Unbelievable. That's crazy.
Yeah. No, I mean, and Tanner McKee, he again, they're okay, but he didn't look, it wasn't great either. But I mean, they have Jalen Hurts. They're fine.
No, they're fine. They're quarterback. They're fine, but it's just like, quarterbacking ain't. It's tough, man. It's a tough business to be in. So when you get a good one, you might want to pay him. That gets us to the Dallas Cowboys.
Maybe.
Because it's a really tough position to play, and the good ones are really hard to come by. That's just the reality. And by the way, nobody really knows how to evaluate quarterbacks. They say they do, but they don't. Everybody has an inexact science at best, and it's an art form, I think, more so than a science anyway. But as the late great Bill Walsh would say, very few people can coach the quarterback position. Even fewer can evaluate the quarterback position. And if you want, you can flip those. Yeah. Very few people can evaluate the quarterback position. Even fewer can coach it. Either way you want to say it, it works. That's just how tough it is. So I saw this article, Yahoo Sports, and give them credit. I believe it was Jory Epstein, if I'm not mistaken. But they had they had quotes from Stephen Jones and from Dak Prescott about the contract negotiations. Because I remember you saying yesterday, Patrick, like, seems like we haven't heard much about these.
I know Dak was listening.
Negotiations. I think Dak was listening because this article in Yahoo Sports had quotes from Dak about it. So this is Stephen Jones. The quote first is from Stephen Jones. Stephen Jones said, when they asked him about when it'll get done, he said, "We hope this season that it gets done before the start of the season. I mean, that's our goal. The thing that happens on these contracts 99% of the time is you're kind of out there, and then all of a sudden it happens out of nowhere. You just knock it out. Happens out of nowhere. What?
So what Jerry Jones means is
you're being surprised. You're being surprised by this?
He's like, it happens out of nowhere. Like all of a sudden I wake up one morning and I go, yeah, $5 million more a year. Who cares?
Like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. Also, when Dak was asked about, the contract situation. Now Dak's a new dad. I think his baby girl maybe 5 months or somewhere. I'm not sure, but obviously a new dad, so life is changing for Dak. And so the quote kind of reflects that, because I think he gets kind of deep in his quote here when he's asked about the contract situation. He says, quote, I'm free right now. I'm free right now, as in where I am in life, what I've done here, not what I've done here, but who I've been here. Understanding that, sure, I'm deserving of the next contract. But then again, I told Luke is his physical therapist. He said, so he's getting like deep and personal.
Yeah.
I told Luke, this game is judged off winning the Super Bowl. And I understand people's angst. Maybe their angst. And me having not done that. Okay. He said, hey, if these people want to move on, it's a business. But I know, as I said in the media, it's a two-way street. Things have to be right from my end as well.
Oh, I think
he's getting deep, man.
He is, and I think there's a certain part of Dak that's like, look, man, I got my baby girl. I'm good. Y'all haters want to hate? Have fun without me.
Pretty
I think
much.
there's part of him. He's like, look, I'd like to stay and play for the people who support us, and want. But he's like, if y'all want to hate and y'all think I'm the worst quarterback ever, I've seen Trey Lance in practice.
I just watched that preseason game last night. My value's going up. Go look at the pages score. Like, Dak's value is going up, man. They make Dak look real good. And here's another one. He said, another quote from Dak: to say I'm free means I'm in no rush, whether it happens before camp, during the season, or at the end of the season when other people have opportunities. My focus and mindset that allows me to be free is, hell, I'm getting paid a lot of money to play the game that I love right now, and I'm not going to cheat that for one bit. I'll give everything to my teammates and not stress out about this, because I have to make sure I go home and give everything to these two, his daughter and his fiance. She's not his wife yet, right? Fiance, whatever. She was there with him. He said, I'm good with whatever happens. He's getting very existential here, man, and deep. And I kind of like it. And it leaves it open either way. He seems to be perfectly fine with playing out the season without a contract. At least on the last year of his contract. I say on the last year of his contract, essentially being almost lame ducked, if you will.
Yeah.
So he seems to be fine with that situation. And like he said, I'm free. I'm in no rush, whether it happens before camp, during the season, or at the end of the season. Wow. So that just tells you, he's like, I may be willing to play out the last year of this deal while negotiating with the Dallas Cowboys. That is new. That's new information from Dak. So Dak, it is not to me, it is obviously, it is not going to be a deal breaker for him to go into the season with this thing. So that's probably why, Patrick, we haven't heard anything, because maybe the Cowboys know that Dak's like, oh no, I'm fine. Y'all, as long as I get my money, y'all can work it out whenever I get my money. But as long as I get it before free agency hits, I'll be your quarterback. And I think that's kind of the understanding they have, because maybe that's why there's been no sense of urgency and a lot of talk about it.
Maybe. I think Dak too. You can tell he's getting sleep as a parent right now. He's not talking. He's not talking like somebody who's got a baby and has to change diapers. I was like, he ain't changing.
He even said that too. He was like, I'm not changing a lot of diapers, guys.
No, you can tell.
He's like,
because he's got the dad talk of like, when I hold my baby girl, I realize, and you're like, that ain't the talk at 3:30 in the morning when you're like, why won't you shut up?
No, trust me, I've had that moment. But no, actually, my baby girl sleeps pretty good. I'm not even joking. She sleeps like 12 hours a day, 12 hours a night. She sleeps like straight through the night. It's freaky. Anyway, getting back to it. So here's another article, and I actually got a story about CeeDee Lamb too, as it relates to the Cowboys. So there's another article in the Washington Post. I believe it's Jason Lockenfor. And he did something interesting. He spoke with random execs around the league, agents around the league, about the Dallas Cowboys situation, because it is so unique, right? You're about to get 3 players all paid top of the market money. The highest paid wide receiver ever, highest paid non-quarterback ever for Micah, highest paid player of all time in Dak. No organization has ever had to do that. Like, nobody has ever. This will be the first that this has ever happened in the history of the NFL. It probably won't be the last, but it'll definitely be the first time that somebody's had to pay top of the market money within, what are we talking about here? Probably 6 months, which is a 6-month period. They're probably going to end up paying maybe 9 months, but they're gonna end up paying all these guys within a calendar year. I don't think that's. I don't think I've ever. I don't think I can remember that happening before. I could be off. You remember examples? Hit us up on the text line 512-447-3776. But I can't remember it happening. But anyway, getting back to it. So they spoke with anonymous execs and agents around the league about the Cowboys situation, mostly Dak. And here is what one NFL GM had to say. Jerry totally screwed this up. Either pay him or lose him, was what one GM in the NFL said. Another long-time contract negotiator, I'm assuming this is an agent, said it makes no sense whatsoever. One said a long-time NFL contract negotiator who is not permitted to speak about players on the contract or the teams. Jerry has cost himself a not inconsequential amount of money already, and it keeps adding up pretty quickly with how the market has moved. I can't tell you precisely when we reached the point when it became an irrefutable universal truth that at certain positions, the next guy up was going to leapfrog everyone else, even if he wasn't quite the same caliber of player, and reach a new price point plateau. But in this instance, it is absolutely irrefutable that this is going to be the case. As someone on the other side of these things, trust me, I wish it didn't work this way, but it does. This is our reality. They've absolutely painted themselves into a corner as a franchise with a quarterback and with the quarterback. And I'm honestly even more baffled that they didn't get ahead of this thing with CeeDee Lamb. That's close to $100 million in a season on those two players alone. No matter what Jerry thinks, that's us talking today. By March, we're looking at even more. He said he asked another agent about this, about the Dak Prescott deal. The agent said Dak gets to the top of the mountain and it's not close, he said, on the condition of anonymity, not wanting to comment about, obviously, another team status. He said, I think Jerry has lost it. That's what that agent said. Another quote here says, I don't think he sees himself winning the Super Bowl with this quarterback, an NFL executive said on the condition of anonymity. He said, and honestly, when I look at his roster, I agree with him. I wouldn't want to pay Prescott $60 million either. But at Jones's age, what else is he going to do? Start over with a rookie next year? He doesn't have 3 years to play that out. Jerry's frustration with not being able to get his team over the top is showing more and more, and he knows his time is not on his side. However much he used to listen to other people about the management of his team, I think that's happening less and less now. One executive said, it's pretty simple. If this player is a free agent and he has a market, and if you have two teams, you have a market, and Dak Prescott will have a market, then he will get $60 million a year. I don't understand why we haven't done this already or why we aren't doing this now. The price is the price. So a lot of execs around the league, agents around the league, contract negotiations, they also don't know what the hell Jerry Jones is doing. So I feel better now that we don't know what the hell Jerry Jones is doing.
No,
he don't know either.
This standard procedure, and you're like, no, no, it's clearly something that is abnormal in the NFL, and it's at this point in it. I feel like Jerry has a plan. The one that keeps getting me is I know people keep saying Jerry doesn't have time to rebuild. I don't think Jerry's thinking that way. Jerry Jones seems much more like the guy who feels like he's never going to die than a guy who is is contemplating, his mortality and man, we need to win before we get there. I feel like he's like, well, I got 6 more quarterbacks in me. Like I got money. I'll keep like I know that's not the case, but it doesn't. Nothing else he is saying makes it sound like he thinks that there's any reason he's going to be leaving the Cowboys anytime soon.
I just don't really understand, because these guys are kind of pointing out, listen, the price is the price. You're going to have to pay whatever the market dictates. Why are you trying to reset the market? Because it seems like that's what Jerry's trying to do.
Yeah.
It seems like the Cowboys are trying to reset the market to a certain extent. And here's a proof of it. This comes from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, Clarence Hill. And Hill does a great job. He's the one that said that the Cowboys and CD are not close, that a gap remains in what the Cowboys are offering and what Lamb wants. Per Clarence Hill, a deal isn't close to getting done, as the Cowboys offer to Lamb, how about this, hasn't reached $33 million per year. So, like I said, they're trying to reset the market a little bit here. or at least they're trying to flatline it a little bit, plateau it, because they're not. Because we know top of the market is Justin Jefferson. He's getting 35 mil a year, and they're not even offering 33 mil a year. And I thought that would be the sweet spot. But if they're not even at the sweet spot, I mean, we talked about it, was like, oh, he's going to be between 30 and 35. What's between 30 and 35? 32, 33. 30, right? 33 is right there in the middle. And I believe that's the number that I kept throwing out there and that we agreed on, like, yeah, that's probably what it'll be. And the Cowboys haven't gotten there yet. They haven't gotten there yet. That means they're closer to 30 million. Meaning we're hovering around 31 million. Like, why are we nitpicking here? It's basically what we're doing in this contract negotiation. Go. No, that to me doesn't make a lot of sense. And in addition to, we know that they're not spending a lot of cash. Yes. Even in this article, they mentioned that the Cowboys per spot track, the Cowboys this season for the 2024 calendar season, they are last in cash committed to payroll. Dead last in cash, nearly not just last, nearly 10 million behind everybody else. So if you start looking at, and I always give you the stats too, that, in the last decade or so, if you just go look at the Cowboys cash spending, that their cash spending is always bottom of the league. If it's not bottom of the league, then it's last in the league in cash spending, and cash is king these days. The last 3 years, the Cowboys have been 30th in cash spending. 3 years before that, 32nd. 3 years before that, 25th. So now everybody's starting to come along. We heard Mike Greenberg talk about that yesterday too. We played that audio. The Washington Post has an article about that. That's Jason Locken for. I think now everybody's pretty hip to the fact that Cowboys don't like to spend cash, and they're a little cheap when it comes to the cash.
Oh,
and that also is an impediment to getting
and this is something interesting, just to let people know about Dak. And I know everybody wants people to take team-friendly contracts. Players don't take team-friendly contracts. Tom Brady did. His wife was worth over $300 million when he did too. I think it's worth noting. Patrick Mahomes didn't at the time he was highest paid quarterback. He just hasn't asked for more yet.
A 10-year deal.
No. I agree. Patrick Mahomes hasn't either. But Tom Brady, when he did it, he had a wife that was worth $300 million. It's worth noting that he did not need the money at the point. No. And some of these people are trying to create generational wealth for their family. So I get why he wants the money. The fact that Dak Prescott is not making this about him, the fact that he's showing up to camp and playing, the fact that he's answering all these questions, not talking negative about the Cowboys, not asking for a trade, not doing anything, he is being extremely team-friendly in a lot of this.
Totally agree.
And so I think it's worth noting that this is pretty rare to have a quarterback go into this setting and be as positive and team-friendly as he's being. And yes, he wants to get paid, as he should, because that's every American should fight for their money to get paid. That's what you should be doing. That's what capitalism is about. So you should be trying to go get your money. But he is being extremely team friendly. I know some people don't like that he's not going to go in and take $40 million so the Cowboys can load, but here's the reality. They won't. $40 million, they will not spend a dime more than they're going to spend anyway. Maybe they'll get one more player in there. They'll probably re-sign their own players, though, for a little bit more. They're not going to really try and take this big shot. They just don't do that. That's not how the Cowboys operate. So he knows that. We know that. And so I think Dak, it's worth noting how insanely, when we see all these clips of him, that most quarterbacks right now will be like, I'm not showing up to camp. I'm not risking injury when he still has heel and ankle problems that he's been dealing with on and off for the last few years. He's still showing up. He's ready to go week one and be the quarterback and try and lead this team. It's impressive in one sense, but for Jerry Jones, I think it's kind of hurting him in negotiation because he thinks he's like, well, he's going to be there, so I've got all the time. You're like, but the time is costing you money, Jerry. He's giving you more rope to hang yourself with. That's all you're doing.
Yep, I agree with you. That's a great point. He is being team friendly. Like I said, there's no reason to hate on Dak in this negotiation at all. I mean, he's just made all the right moves, and that's why he's got all the leverage. And Jerry Jones is acting like he's got all the leverage. It's like, Jerry Jones, you got no leverage here. You got no leverage at all. Even in the CeeDee Lamb contract negotiations, he's got a little bit more leverage, but not much. I think he lost all that.
And just for everyone who hates Dak Prescott, I want you to know, if Dak Prescott is gone, Shedeur Sanders is your quarterback next season. That's almost a done and dusted deal.
And then Dion might be your head coach if that's the case too.
But I'm just letting you know. So if you don't like Dak, watch a lot of Colorado this year because that's probably going to be your quarterback because that's the guy that they feel they can go get.
That's wild. Hopefully that's
what every single rumor would tell you to.
Yo, I know. And then the rumor on top of that is that Dion's gonna follow his son and be the head coach of the Cowboys, and Jerry would love that because then they would get headlines on
Yep.
top of headlines, and finally got a coach. He's finally got a coach that has a mouthpiece as good as his, and he would love that and can promote as well as him. Listen, I love Dion, but I don't know about that.
I don't know about that
I don't
either.
know if that's good for anybody. That's right. That might be bad for everybody involved. I'm not looking forward to that. Hopefully, that is all for rumor. All right, good stuff there. We come back. We'll get into some Texas football conversation. Go behind the burnt orange curtain. We're going to hear from two of the leaders on this team, Taft Daddy, Michael Taft, and also hear from Kelvin Banks on the other side, right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some Texas football conversation. Go behind the burnt orange curtain and hear from a couple of the leaders on the team. Michael Taft, who is one of the leaders on defense in that secondary, and Kelvin Banks, who's considered by most to be the best leader, the best player on the team, period. He projects to be the highest draft pick on the team. Look at the preseason All-American list, and he is the Longhorn, the only Longhorn recognized on those preseason All-American lists. So we'll hear from the All-American as well. But let's start with Taft Daddy. He gives us some good stuff here. The first cut is him talking about his relationship with Jahdae Barron and Makuba, the 512 boys, because they're all from the Central Texas area, and they all work out with the same DB coach, Barron Performance. Shout out to Barron Performance. Bernard Blake, I believe, is his name, but I believe he's listened to the show a few times and has given us a shout out. So shout out to him. But I believe that's kind of where they all got close, because they worked out together, and they work out together with him. Here is Michael Taft on the relationship between Barron, Makuba, and himself.
He's a monster. Do it all, selfless guy. Whatever he needs to do, whatever the coaches need him to do, he's going to do it. And I'm sure y'all have heard the speed, the hands, the routes, but I want to mention that how selfless of a player he is. I told him that the other day. I was like, dude, never lose that. I've never seen somebody that's, got so much hype, but not let that hype get to him and just put his head down and grind. Dude. He's a beast. All respect to Silas.
Silas Bolden. And yeah, of course, a lot of people have been talking about Silas Bolden, unselfish teammate he is. All right, I think we may have this is the one on the relationship with Andrew Makuba. Yes, and of course, Jahdae Barron. Here it is.
Yeah, so we started training with our DB trainer in the Austin area, Band Performance. I want to say sophomore year of high school. But I think Jahdae and Andrew trained with them before I even was there. So, but when it was with me, it was sophomore year of high school, and then COVID hit, and so we were there every single day. There was really nothing to do besides work out, eat, and sleep, and play Fortnite during COVID. So that was what we were doing. So we were training every single day. Us three, a couple other guys that are playing D1. And it was just so fun. Our bond kind of started there, but once we all three got back together here this winter, we knew what it was. We're so excited to be together. It's so fun. I can't wait for our journey to start.
Yeah, and I heard Andrew Makuba say, and we'll play some Makuba sound a little bit later on. I heard him say that he's been knowing Jahdae Barron since he was in 8th grade. So they've been cool, Jahdae Barron and Makuba, since he was in 8th grade. All three of these guys have been really close. He just said it since COVID. They all got close working out together with the same DB coach at their band performance. So I can tell you right now, it does actually help if you are close as a group and you work together and you're close. And it seems like these guys are. That's going to help the communication between these guys, the unspoken communication that has to happen at times. Them guys being I call it hive minded. All right, everybody on the same page, seeing the same things, thinking the same things, but not necessarily having to say it. Right. Hopefully that's how you and your wife can be sometimes. Right. We ain't got to say it all the damn time. We just kind of understand it. And I think you get that hive mind when you hang out together and you start to develop that kind of camaraderie and chemistry. It's good stuff. Okay. So let's, Michael Taft, who, like I said, Taft's one of the leaders on this team. And he was asked about Quinn's leadership, the leader on the team, the guy at the natural leadership position, and how it has improved. Remember, Sark has talked about Quinn. When everybody asks Sark, they've asked him this probably 10 times of the offseason. Hey, where's Quinn made the biggest leaps of improvement? What's he improved on the most? Where has he really grown the most? He always says leadership. Sark said, I probably can think of 4 or 5 times. You probably could too, Patrick, where they asked him that question. He says leadership. Here is Michael Taft talking about how Quinn has grown as a leader. And I like the detail that he gets into here.
I just think that his relationship basis with people, with our teammates, has grown so much. I think he understands as a leader, there's different leadership styles. Comparison is a thief of joy. And so I'm not going to compare him to anybody, but I know that every leader is a leader by example. And that's what Quinn does best. He leads by example. He's so positive to all his teammates. And just going back on that relationship point, he's got a relationship with every person, whether it's a freshman walk on. I was at that point one time in my life. He's talking to that freshman walk on, or it's his starting center. he has the same relationships, and I think that's so cool, especially knowing how being in that position before, just seeing how cool it is that Quinn takes that approach.
Yeah, remember I told you guys, like, everybody wants the quarterback's time. You're the quarterback. So you can't just hang out with the receivers and your crew. Everybody wants to hang out with the quarterback a little bit. You got to go hang out with the D line sometimes. Yeah, I need to go hang out with the DBs and go kick it with them. Oh man, the DBs going out to eat. You know what? I'm gonna go crash their dinner and hang out with them. You got to do that as a QB. Like you don't have a lot of time. I was best friends with a quarterback on the team, starting quarterback, Chris Sims. Everybody demands your time, and we were part of his personal crew, the Wood. We were the group. I mean, we were brothers. But I remember oftentimes like we had to go kick it as a group. Hey man, we got to go kick it with this group. Or Sims like, hey, I got to go hang out with the tight ends for a little while, man. I haven't hung out with those guys in a while. You got to go hang out with the walk-ons. You need to go in the locker room and go kick it in the part of the locker room where all the walk-ons are, and just go hang out there for a while and just kick it. And you're like that. You got to do that. Yeah, you can't. As a quarterback, everybody wants a piece of you because you're the quarterback. It means more coming from you. When you give words of encouragement, it means more. When the quarterback says, hey guys, I want to organize a practice, man. I want to get together. I want to go over this or go over that. It matters more. So I love that he has an individual relationship with guys. As a quarterback, that's important on the team. You can't just people can admire you from afar on a team. You're a team. You're brothers.
No, the only time they see you, it cannot be on the cover of the video game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I that was really important to me. All right, let's jump to Kelvin Banks. A couple of Kelvin Banks quotes before we get here. Okay, so I like this one. He was asked about Quinn's leadership. Can we get cut 17? So let's just hear from Kelvin Banks, who was protecting Quinn, and he was asked about Quinn's leadership. And here's what Kelvin Banks had to say.
Yeah, he's grew so much from when I first got here to now. He's such a team player type of guy. He's making sure everybody's getting stuff together. He's trying to get you going in practice. If he sees you down, he's making sure you're in the right spot in the right place at all times. Even in the locker room, he's always cracking jokes and stuff. So he's grew from the football field standpoint, and he's grew a lot off the field as well. So he's done a pretty good job leading his team.
Here is Kelvin Banks. He was asked about the pride in protecting his quarterback, Quinn Ewers, which he's one of the best in the country at. I love the quote that he has here. Here's Kelvin Banks.
Yes, I take a lot of pride in making sure Quinn is not touched by my man, because that's kind of the main focus as any old lineman is winning your box, and then once you win your box, you can start to build more and more. But once you winning your one thing Flood always says that just came to mind is he always tell you win your one-on-ones. If you can't win your one-on-ones, you can't play. So as long as you win your one-on-ones, you'll be fine. So it's definitely a big pride and joy I take making sure Quinn is protected.
Yeah, I would say you guys said too. That one-on-ones is just everywhere. They're out there, the DB wide receiver, they're inside in the line of scrimmage. Only like the linebackers don't have to deal with that, but when they take on a block, it becomes one-on-one. Football, at its essence, it's going to come down to you beating another dude. Can you beat that other dude? Can you do what you do better than they do what they do? And if you can, you got a shot. I love that quote though. What did he say about
I take a lot of pride in not having Quinn being touched by man.
Yeah.
Some of that effect.
Put that on a t-shirt. I take a lot of pride in Quinn not being touched by man. I love that. That is, I don't know where he got that. I don't know if it just came to him. That is, I would add the hands of man. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
But he said, but it fits though, because you don't want them to be sacked. You don't want them to a guy to run into your quarterback or to roll into your quarterback. So it ain't always got to be the hands. But that's a brilliant quote. I take a lot of pride in Quinn not being touched by man. Is there a better quote from a left tackle? Come on, Kelvin Banks. Kudos to you, brother. Well done. I love that. All right, we come back. We'll have a topic for the big fat poll today, and we'll also get into the musically themed day of the week right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Low and Rod Babers coming back.
I take a lot of pride in making sure Quinn is not touched by my man, because
Back on the Rodcast here on a Friday morning. That means it's 512 Friday, where we play local bands that you can go check out around town live this weekend. This is Alejandro Escovedo playing today over at Green Hall. You can go see him tonight at Green Hall. Alejandro Escovedo. Let's get over to the big fat poll of the day. You can hit us up on the text line. 512-447-3776 is the text line number, or you can get us on X at the Horn ATX. We'll get the poll posted up on there as well.
Patrick's big fat poll of the day on the Horn.
All right, big fat poll of the day today. Since we were talking, we're listening to some sound from Kelvin Banks talking to the media yesterday. I thought we'd look at one of the issues Texas had a little bit, which is somewhat of a quarterback issue, somewhat of an offensive line issue, not an issue for Kelvin Banks, but issue for some of the other offensive line as we go into this season and going into the SEC is sacks and allowing sacks. Last season, they allowed 28 sacks in 14 games. It's 2 sacks a game. Not a number that you're really happy with if you're Texas. They were 80th in the country in sacks allowed. It's not really where you want to be. So the question today is, how many sacks per game will Texas allow this season? I went with the per game because it's a little bit easier because we don't know how many games they're going to play. So if we look at, they were 2 per game, by the way, before in the regular season. They were 2 per game in the postseason as well. They had 1 in the Big 12 championship. They had 1 in the game, 3 in the game against Washington. So that equals you out to 4 total and 2 per game. So 2 per game in 2023. They were about 1.5 per game in 2022. So we will give you the numbers that I'll put up on the X poll to just kind of make it easier. Is 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, or 3 to 4? Where do you think Texas will fall in sacks allowed per season? They're going into a better line of scrimmage league than they were in last year. So it could go up. You are hoping that it goes down. You hope that Quinn learns how to step up in the pocket better. He gets a little better at it. You hope the offensive line, being another year down, being ready to play. You basically have 1 new guy coming in, and he's going to look like a good player too in Cam Williams.
Yeah, Cam Williams is going to be a good player.
So how many sacks per game will Texas allow this season?
That is a good question. I mean, the number should definitely drop. The number should definitely drop, and it should be mostly because of Quinn. Kind of go back to that cut that we played a couple of days ago of Quinn discussing when he was asked about stepping up in the pocket, and literally said, I'm paraphrasing, it's muscle memory for me when we use play action to step up in the pocket, but when we do straight drop back, which is probably a little over 1/3 of the sample of the drop backs for Texas are just straight drop backs. They're probably going to have more straight drop backs this year. Think about what's happening with the running game. Going to be a pass first team, so you have more straight drop back situations. And that's they straight drop back means no screen game, no play action pass, no RPO. That's straight drop back. I think for him, if he can improve his sack avoidance, I always talk about that, and the way he handles pressure by stepping up in the pocket, maneuvering in the pocket, creating more time and space in the pocket, instead of just scrambling and abandoning the pocket, he'll be a big part of that improvement, though. He'll be a huge part of it. So, yeah, I mean, I expect it to improve mostly because of Quinn's pocket presence. And if it doesn't improve, I think mostly it'll be because of his pocket presence or lack thereof. So yeah. I think that's a good. So it's a good. It's a good question. I mean, and in the SEC, and not just the SEC, they're going to play. We'll get into this actually next segment because we'll dive into ESPN's top 100 list of the best top 100 players in college football. When you go start looking at the players, the top players that Texas will face on the schedule, it's mostly defense.
Yeah,
Texas will face some of the best defensive players like in the country in the schedule. In the second game of the season, it starts.
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna face like 3 of the top. You probably face 3 of the top 30 best defensive players in the country in game 2 against Michigan. I'm not. We'll go over the list. I'll show you. They ain't me just said it. That's. I think that's a reality. We'll get into it. But so I'm with you. That's a great topic actually, Patrick, because I think it's top of mind.
It is, and that is. Yeah, you're going up against Michigan. Kelvin Banks was asked about that, and he said, "Yeah, we're looking forward to it. They have one of the best defenses in the league, in college football. So we want to play them, and we want to go after them. But yeah, it is. That is a concern that you're playing one of the best in your non-con. You're playing a really, really good defense, and then going into the SEC, you want to get that number down from last year, but are you going to be able to against a better schedule of defenders? So that's what we'll just see what you guys think. We'll ask you guys. We'll get that up on on X at the Horn ATX, and then go ahead and let us know if you got a take. You can put that in on the text line 512-447-3776.
All right, good stuff there, Patrick. We come back, we'll get into actually that list I was just referring to, the ESPN and Pro Football Focus, both Pro Football Focus to the top 50, ESPN to the top 100. We'll dive into what the Longhorns are ranked, but more importantly, the opponents for the Longhorns. How many of the opponents for the Longhorns are considered elite players that they'll have to have game plans to try to neutralize? We'll dive into that. On the other side, we got Rod Rant, also Texas football related. With the injuries in the backfield, what can Sark do to adjust and tweak the offense to still make sure that he's that you still have that element, that explosive element in the offense when you lose your starting running back? And I think, I'm going to go out there and kind of psychoanalyze Sark and try to figure out how he is going to approach the loss of his starting running back and the loss of depth in the running back room. I'll give you some of the adjustments I think he could, should, and would make coming up later on in the show. We get to Rod's Rant. All that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Coming back on the Horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. That's when Patrick, my co-host, the Ideallionaire, he plays jams from local bands and artists, very talented human beings that you have a chance to catch live right here in the ATX. Who we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Monty Montgomery. He is playing tonight at Antone's.
Oh, I like that. Nice. Appreciate my man Patrick hooking us up on a 512 Friday. Also hooking us up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day. And that is now posted on the X account at the Horn ATX. Go check it out. And Patrick, give the folks the topic for the big fat poll of the day.
Big fat poll of the day. How many sacks per game will Texas allow this season? They were at 2 last season. They were about 1.5 2 seasons ago, but going into a tougher defensive line, a tougher line conference, and playing one of the best defenses in the country in Michigan in week 2. So there could be some games, but like I said, Quinn Ewers has been working on it a lot this offseason, trying to lower his sack numbers. So that coming together with another year of this offensive line being together, you're hoping the number goes down, but it is going to be a tougher road for this offensive line this season.
You said was 2 per game this past season?
2 per game. They had 28 sacks allowed in 14 games. Yes.
In 2022, what'd you say?
Games. So right around 1.5, just under 1.5.
Yeah, that actually tracks because I don't know if it's true or not, but a lot of scouts are putting that on Quinn. We'll get into it because when you look at Quinn's numbers in terms of how he handles pressure, the stats and the metrics, the analytics say he was much better in 2022 than he was in 2023. And here, basically in 2022, if you look at allowed pressure percentage, there's no real sack avoidance stat. So you just look at different metrics and try to determine who's really good. So pressure to sack rate is a number they look at, or a metric they look at. Allowed pressure percentage is a number that is examined when you're looking at sack avoidance by quarterbacks, and sack rate and pressure rate. So people kind of look at different things. Those are the ones that I track. So for Quinn in 2022, pressure to sack rate, it was 13.9. And you go, oh, 13.9, that's pretty good. That is actually really good. And it's a sticky stat. These pressure to sack stats and allowed pressure stats, meaning sticky stat, meaning in college, the college number is usually reflective of the NFL number. Like it tracks. That's not a big change. Whether you go look at guys like Patrick Mahomes and you go look at some of the best quarterbacks in the league now, their pressure to sack numbers, they track. From college, they were pretty similar to what they are in the league. That's what they mean about sticky stat. So in 2022, his pressure to sack rate 13.9%. In 2023, 25%. So you're like, oh man, that's a big leap. So now scouts trying to figure out, well, who's the real Quinn when it comes to handling pressure? Is it the 2022 Quinn or is it 2023 Quinn? Remember, he decided to scramble more in 2023 as well, which, obviously kind of changes, the metrics because it changes his approach to handling pressure. Quinn's allowed pressure percentage in 2022 is 14.3%. And 2023, it was 22.4%. And Quinn Ewers sack rate, according to Sports Info Solutions, sack rate versus pressure, they had him last year at 33%. Pro Football Focus had his pressure to sack percentage in 2022 at 13.9, and they had it at 24.3 in 2023. So either, doesn't matter which one you're looking at, which one of these metrics in regards to sack avoidance, Quinn Ewers very different handling pressure in 2022 than he was in 2023. And that's why this year, a lot of scouts, they want to see, hey, which one's the real Quinn? Because we don't necessarily know who the real Quinn is. And that's why it's a big year for him handling pressure. So I think he may be the biggest factor.
Yeah, he is. I will give you one stat that's crazy in this when I was looking up those numbers, though. Do you know what team was the best in 2022 and 2023 at sacks allowed?
Washington?
I was watching Oregon. Both years. Both years, they allowed 5 sacks.
Holy moly.
That is a ridiculous stat. They allowed 10 sacks in 2 seasons with Bo Nix and Dan Lanning.
I know that. And that's wow. And the ball is out quick. I will say that.
It has to
The
be.
ball's out.
It has to be.
The ball's out. So they insulate their pass protection. They insulate it also with make sure they're getting the ball out quickly. But that is phenomenal. I did not know that. That is mind blowing.
Now you assume
that's
that number goes up a little bit this year because of going to the Big Ten instead of being in the Pac-12. But even that, you still have Dylan Gabriel, who we know is pretty good about avoiding sacks too.
Yeah, that's the Longhorns. He
Yeah.
is really good about avoiding sacks. So and here's an example of the sticky stat thing. So Patrick Mahomes pressure to sack percentage in college 11.3. In the NFL is 11.1. Josh Allen 16.3 in college, 13.3 in the NFL. Slight improvement, but still hovering around the same thing. Jordan Love 12.7 in college, 14.7 in the NFL. Trevor Lawrence 15.8 in college, 15.8 in the NFL. Dak Prescott 16.7 in college, 16.5 in the NFL. Sticky stat.
Yeah.
That's one of those stats that if it's that, people think about completion percentages like that too. Now Josh Allen kind of shattered some of that narrative, but completion percentage is considered one of those too. Like if you got a relatively high completion percentage in college, it'll also translate to the league. Doesn't mean you're gonna be successful. You can be completing, as we saw last night, Kenny Pickett just completing short passes. they're not going downfield at all. But it just shows you a little bit of the accuracy potentially. So we'll see though with Quinn. I think a big part of his growth and development will be sack avoidance, how he handles pressure, trying to become I call it a pocket scientist, being able to maneuver in the pocket, create time and create space. Sounds like I'm saying something about Einstein here and the theory of relativity, but create time and create space in the pocket with the way that you manipulate the pocket, the way that you move around in the pocket. It ain't a big area. So these movements are going to be, very, very subtle movements. I mean, think about guys like Tom Brady in the pocket and think about some of your best pocket scientists, not necessarily mobile guys. Now you can create more space by just getting outside the pocket, which you will see a lot of players doing. Quinn's not bad outside the pocket either, but you want to be able to exhaust as much time as you can as a quarterback inside that pocket, and stepping up in it is kind of one of the last developments, if you will, before the pocket collapses. You step up and then you can step out if you need to, but you step up and then you'll have better vision, and it should help with your natural throwing motion and the timing of the play by the time you're stepping up to throw the football. But that's all stuff Quinn said he's working on, and I think it'll definitely affect the sack numbers. All right, good stuff there from Patrick. We come back from these Horn headlines, and we'll get into some more college football discussion. ESPN and Pro Football ranking the best players in college football, a top 50 and a top 100 list. We'll dive into it, but first, let's get updated, let's get educated, let's get informed on all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, the Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros will look to continue their run as the hottest team in baseball and add to their 8-game win streak as they take on the struggling White Sox tonight. The Astros have a .617 win percentage since April 27th and now have a 3-game lead in the AL West, while in comparison, the White Sox have a win percentage of .260 in that same time frame and are 15 games behind the second worst team in the MLB. Spencer Arguetti will get the call for the Astros following up tallying double-digit strikeouts in his last 2 outings. And the Rangers went to the bottom of the ninth tied for the second straight game, but were not able to pull out the victory last night as the Twins manufactured a run on a sacrifice fly to win 3-2. Cody Bradford pitched 6 solid innings, and Adolis Garcia put together a 3-hit game, but it wasn't enough as the Rangers dropped the series opener. Andrew Heaney takes the mound tonight with the Rangers hoping to even the series. And in the NFL, the Eagles got the win in their preseason matchup against the Patriots 14-13 after a late 2-point conversion for Philadelphia. This Saturday, the Texans take on the Giants in Houston at noon, and the Cowboys play a late game against the Raiders at 9 p.m. in Oakland. And the Atlanta Falcons added another defensive player after making the trade for Matthew Judon by signing safety Justin Simmons to a 1-year deal. Simmons now joins Jesse Bates to form one of the best safety combinations in the NFL. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. We appreciate those. All right, let's get to this. We'll get to the top 50 list first. That one's a little easier to wrap your head around than the top 100 list the ESPN put out. Let's get to this the Pro Football Focus top 50 list. Then we'll get to the top 100 list by ESPN and the Longhorns that are ranked on that list. In the top 50 list by Pro Football Focus that came out, well, they've been trickling. I think they've been going, 50 through 40 and then 40 through 30. So now it's out in its entirety. The number one player they have is, they say Travis Hunter is the best player in college football. I mean, I wouldn't dispute that if you want to say it. I mean, he's the only guy that can legitimately play both ways and is considered a top 10 to 15 player at both the corner and a wide receiver. That's pretty rare. So he'll be in the Heisman conversation if he can pull off some of those Heisman moments on both sides of the ball. They got him as the best overall player. They got Ollie Gordon as number 2, which I don't agree with there. That's a little too high for Ollie Gordon. Well, maybe I'm a little bit biased considering he didn't do jack against Texas in that when they played in the Big 12 title game. I think he's a good running back, but I don't know if he's the second best player in college football. That's a little high. But I want you to pay attention, folks, to 3 and 4 on this list. Number 3, they got Mason Graham, Michigan, the D tackle. And some people say he might be the best player in college football. Seriously. Graham was he was one of only 2 interior defensive linemen in the country to finish with top 10 grades as both a pass rusher and a run defender last year. The other guy was Tavondre freaking Sweat, as we know, who won the Outland Trophy, and he was teamed up with Byron Murphy, and that combination was the best D tackle duo in college football. Well, Longhorn fans, you got there's an easy way for you to be able to kind of process how good the interior defensive line of Michigan is. It's basically what Texas was last year. That's it. They're just as dominant. They got this guy who's their version of Byron Murphy, who'll be drafted somewhere in the top 15, top 20. Hell, might even be top 10. And then they have another defensive lineman who will be drafted. I think it's Mason. This is Mason Graham. They have another Grant who will be drafted in a second round somewhere. But then they got Will Johnson as number 4 on this list. He's the cornerback for Michigan and is considered the best corner in college football. Even last year, I was told that if he would have left last year, he would have been the top corner taken in last year's draft, and he'll be the top corner taken in this year's draft. So those, I mean, you're gonna face that combination, and like I said, I believe Kenneth Grant on this list makes it also into the top 50. I'll give that in just a second, but if you're Texas, Deion Walker's another guy they're gonna face. He's the defensive tackle out of Kentucky, just a really good player, and he's 11th on this list. So basically in the Pro Football Focus top 50, Texas will play 10 players that made it into the top 50, and 7 of them will be on defense. Kenneth Grant is 41st on this list, just by the way. But they'll play 10 top 50 rated players by Pro Football Focus standards, and 7 of those will be on defense. I believe the offensive guys are the tight end from Michigan. There's like Colston Loveland, I believe is his name. He's on the list. Carson Beck, of course, is the other offensive player. And then there's the guard from Georgia. I believe his name is Tate Rutledge, if I'm not mistaken. Those are 3 offensive players in this top 50 list that Texas will face. But defense, 7 of them, and a lot of them on the defensive line. A lot of them on the defensive front. We just talked about Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham. You're going to face those 2 guys, week 2 against Michigan. Deion Walker out of Kentucky. They got him 11th on this list, interior defensive lineman. They're saying he's going to be a first-round pick on the defensive line. He's one of the best D linemen. He's a freak. In terms of size and I don't know if there's a bigger interior defensive lineman. I mean, he is huge. So they saw him at SEC Media Days and had like a size comparison. The guy's gargantuan. Nick Scourton from Texas A&M. He is one of the best pass rushers from the edge in all of college football. He had a breakout sophomore campaign at Purdue, but then he had a 21 pass rush win rate, top 10 among edge defenders in college football last season. And now with the Aggies, he's going to be 6'4", 260. He's going to be a problem, even in the SEC, a line of scrimmage league. So that's getting back to, I don't even know if Patrick was thinking along the same lines as I was, excuse me. But when I looked at this list, instead of looking at where Texas had players ranked, and by the way, Texas has Kelvin Banks at number 9 in this top 50 and Quinn Ewers at number 38 in this top 50 list. What stood out to me was, man, all the really great defensive players Texas is going to face, specifically on the defensive line. And that'll be early on. So, Patrick, maybe you're thinking like I was, or maybe just great minds think alike. But your question and the topic for the Big Fat Poll today: how many sacks will Texas allow? that actually will be a huge factor next season, especially now with running backs in pass protection and blitz pickup. You're going to face one of the blitz. I played blitz happiest defensive coordinators in NFL history when Wink Martindale, who's taking over at Michigan, when you face him in week 2. So there's going to be a lot of blitzes, a lot of exotic pressures because they run an NFL system, and he's got the NFL players to run it. It's going to be that, like I said, that may determine whether you win that game or not, how you handle pressure.
No, I agree. And that's kind of the point, is that they're about to go into a very tough season of defensive players, of line play, of, especially when you throw in Michigan, but then going into the SEC. And, we talked about how good this line was against Alabama at points.
Yep.
And that was a big point of emphasis for the last 2 years. But you're like, okay, well, now you're going to play a few of those teams that have those players, and you're playing against much more of those big offensive linemen, where in the Big 12, you played against some really skilled guys, but you didn't necessarily play against the brute force that the SEC is going to have on a week in and week out basis. And so it's kind of looking at that with Michigan, and then looking at those numbers from last year and realizing how much of a problem it was, which is partly Quinn. We've talked about it plenty. But you don't want to be 80th in the country in anything, really.
No, I agree with that. Especially if you're Texas.
Yeah. Well, no, if you want to win a national title, you probably don't want to be 80th in the country in anything. And so that is, when I was looking at the numbers and then seeing some of these other teams and where they rank and where they consistently are sitting, where they're closer. And so 2 years ago, you looked at that number at 19 and went, okay, that's a couple high, but maybe, you blow a couple, you put that on Quinn. Last year, it was really an unacceptable number. You just can't let that continue to happen. But you're going to go into a tougher conference. You're going against better defensive players, and you just gave those numbers gave those rankings of how many of those really, really talented guys. And it's not just those guys. It's that now you have to devote another guy in there. It's the fact that you now have running backs that you are going to put guys in there who maybe don't have the same pass pro and the same experience running pass protection to pick up. And if you're devoting 2 guys and you're really watching one player and they sneak a linebacker over the top, are you going to have somebody to make sure that gets picked up? Is Quinn going to be able to step up into the pocket against some really good defensive tackles that you're going to be playing against, who are going to push that pocket inward, and there's no pocket to step up into?
Yep.
Are you able to do all of those pieces? That's kind of what you look at for Texas. And, it's one of the points of this season that if they improve on that between Quinn and this offensive line, it's going to go a very long way. If you take that number down to 1 a game instead of 2 a game from last year, and you knock it down to 1 a game, then that is going to be a huge, huge improvement about field position, first downs, ball control, and those are leading to scoring drives instead of stalling out and kicking field goals, instead of stalling out and having to punt the ball and put it back on your defensive's shoulders. It's just not allowing those sacks, not allowing those big plays in a negative.
Yep, totally agree. And when you look at the top 100 list for ESPN, number 1, they got James Pierce Jr., the defensive end from Tennessee. They got Mason Graham, though, number 2 on their list. So they got that defensive tackle out of Michigan, number 2 on their list. They got Travis Hunter, number 3 on their list, but they got Will Johnson, Michigan corner, number 4. And so they, either way, you go on that second game of the season, it's going to be a really good test for the Texas offense. Also, their ability to pass protect. We told you Kenneth Grant. On this list, Kelvin Banks is also number 9. There are 5 Longhorns that made the top 100 list for ESPN. And I'll give you those Longhorns in a second. You have Kelvin Banks at number 9. Quinn Ewers is number 23 on their list. Remember, he was 38th on the Pro Football Focus list. And they have Trey Moore at 49. Shout out to Trey Moore. And they have Anthony Hill at 64 on this list. And then they got Isaiah Bond at 86. And those are the 5 Longhorns that make it into the top 100 for ESPN, which is pretty good. I mean, there's another player that could have made the list, Janae Barron. I think probably could have had a shot at making that list too.
Yeah.
Janae Barron, hell, even Makuba. I mean, honestly, Makuba got a resume just as impressive there at Clemson. I mean, the guy was a freshman All-American, so he could have had a chance to make the list. So I think, the secondary could have had a couple more guys that could have made the list. Thinking about it, that with CJ Baxter out, and I'm sure it's a recent list. He would have made it if he didn't get hurt. I think that's probably why he didn't.
Yeah, no, and again, this is all those, when you look at those, it's motivation for some guys, but at the same point, you don't really care about being on the preseason list. You like to get there as a program, but it's more about making that postseason list. That's the one you really want to be on.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, you'll play 4 players listed in their top 10, and 3 of them are on defense because they have Malachi Starks, the safety from Georgia. They got him at number 10, which is pretty high, actually. They got him as the 10th best player in college football. So that says a lot too. And like I said, they have Tate Radledge. He's the Georgia guard. That Georgia offensive line, it's a top 5 offensive line too. So I mean, that's another discussion. We're talking more about the defensive players they're going to face, but that Georgia offensive line is going to be tough. They got Deion Walker, the Kentucky interior defensive lineman, not listed at 21 on here. So you'll end up facing, like I said, you'll end up facing a good amount. I'll say you'll face 3 first-round picks on defense next year. Mason Graham, Will Johnson, Deion Walker, just off the top of my head. And you know what? At 4, because the safety, Malachi Starks will probably be a first-round pick. He'll be the first safety. You know how that is. That's weird in the NFL. It's not a premium position.
Yeah.
So safety sometimes can just drop out of the first round altogether.
Yeah.
So that one's weird. He'll be the first safety taken. I'm not sure he'll be a first round. It's kind of like running back.
Yep.
You should be the first running back taken. Doesn't mean you're going to be a first rounder. So that's kind of weird. But you're going to face at least 3 first-round picks on defense just next year, and 2 of those will be on the same team. And honestly, it could be 4. I got to look at this kid, Nick Scourton from A&M, the defensive end, and people are really high on him. Purdue transfer, 17 tackles for loss, 12 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 3 passes defended in 2 seasons with Purdue, had 72 tackles total. He may be a guy that takes the leap, and I take that back. You know what? Mikael Williams. You'll know him when the draft process starts. Defensive lineman for Georgia. He's probably going to be a top 15 pick. It's one of those guys you don't hear about until it's the draft process. You go, what?
Yeah.
Oh, that guy, what? He's probably he's one of the biggest freaks in college football. He's one of those guys. So now that list is up to maybe 5, maybe 6 if this Nick Scourton kid works out. So my point, like it's growing, and that's you may face 5 first-round picks on defense next season. It's possible, or more. And that's not including like the All-Americans, like Danny Stutzman, that kid from Oklahoma, the linebacker. The guy is, no pun intended, he's a stud. So he's a really good player that you'll face. He's not going to be a first-round pick, but he's a good defensive player to face. The defensive players that you're going to face on this schedule, to me, that makes it a little daunting if you're going to have issues on offense, pass protection issues, if identity issues because of the running game or the lack of depth at the running back position. So that's why Sark's got to be really aggressive, I think, offensively this year. As a matter of fact, we'll get into that when we get into Rod's rant of the day on how Sark can better define the identity of this offense. What adjustments could he potentially make? Seeing that now you're going to have lack of depth at running back. You lost your starting running back. You lost a bit of the power element that CJ Baxter is going to be brought to the table as a downhill runner. What is Sark going to do potentially to replace some of those elements? Or to compensate for the loss of those elements? We'll discuss that when we get into Rod's rant of the day. We'll do that coming up next segment. There you go. That's the top 100 list and the top 50 list by Pro Football Focus and ESPN. I think you can have. I'm surprised you didn't have a couple of more Longhorns in the top 50 list, maybe splattered in there. But I think the Longhorns are well represented. And I think you'll have, at the end of the season, like Patrick mentioned, I think you'll have more guys on that list as the season goes the way the Longhorns think it will. All right, we'll come back. We'll get into Rod's rant on the other side, and we'll talk about what adjustments that I could anticipate or what adjustments do I predict Sark could, maybe should make with the losses now that they've had in the backfield. And we'll talk about that coming up on the other side. All of that more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. I want to get into some Texas football conversation. I want to get into, unfortunately, processing more about the losses you've had in that running back room, the loss of Christian Clark, a freshman, but most notably C.J. Baxter, the loss of your starting running back. And so you lose a little bit of your identity offensively. You're going to lose some of the pony package that I, love so much. And I've been such a big fan of for the last few years. So I think you'll lose some of your multi-back sets. You lose some of your power running game, some of your downhill running game. So some of your gap in your power schemes. Not saying that Jaden Blue can't do that. I know he can, but you had multiple guys that could do that at elite level, and you lose some of that. So lately I'm trying to psychoanalyze Sark a little bit and predict what he's going to do to tweak the offense schematically, what tactics and strategy that he is going to try to utilize to compensate for that loss, and to forge the new identity on offense post C.J. Baxter loss and the loss of Christian Clark as well. So I came up with some things that I think Sark would, maybe should do this upcoming season that I think will help Texas overcome any issues that they have as relates to the depth at the running back spot now. And I've talked about some of these, but I got some other ones that I want to throw out there too. So I think the number one thing, and we've talked about this too, just add more depth to that room. And I like that, they're adding Juan Davis to the room. I talked about this yesterday. I think you should turn Juan Davis into your version of Kyle Juszczyk with the with the 49ers. He might be, I think he's like 2 inches taller or something like that than Kyle Juszczyk, but still, in terms of the versatility in their skill sets, I think you can use them in the same way. I think you use them as a modern day fullback, but then you also can, there are certain plays, screen game. Sometimes they hand it off to him, but you can make him a lead blocker. We know he's a really good blocker, competent blocker. You can put him as a flex tight end if you need to, put him as an H-back if you need to. You just kind of move him around the formation, and then you can still kind of get back to some of your two-back sets, except you would have more of a modern fullback than your two tailbacks. Now, you can still sprinkle in your pony package, but it wouldn't be a pony. It would actually be true 21 personnel, because he would represent a fullback, but a fullback that could, like you, Shaq, go to tight end, go to H-back for you, be a kind of a traditional fullback if you need him to, but also a guy you can split out and who'd be comfortable over there because he played Wildcat quarterback, by the way. I think he would also be your Wildcat option because he played Wildcat quarterback in high school, and he played wide receiver before he became a tight end. Even as a tight end, there are some plays where you're essentially deployed in a manner like a wide receiver. So he'd be comfortable there too. You can just hunt matchups with him. So Juan Davis, modern day Kyle Juszczyk, I think would be an option. And Sark's familiar with that because, as I pointed out several times, he followed Shano in Atlanta, and he did not want to discard the best offense in the league that had just had a Super Bowl run and damn nearly won a Super Bowl and had an MVP quarterback. He didn't want to discard that. So instead, he wanted to transition that offense into his offense, but he didn't want to, break away cold turkey. So he essentially fused and hybridized a lot of his schemes with Shanahan's, and that's why his offense now has a lot of the same conceptual signatures as Shanahan's offense. And the pony package was one of the, that was one of the products of that fusion. And that's why it's something that Sark is familiar with in terms of using the two-back sets. This guy's the original West Coast offense was a two-back offense. All right, it was 21 personnel. Essentially the original air raid offense was a 21 personnel offense. It was a two-back set. There are so many really versatile concepts you could deploy with two backs back there, whether you're using a fullback or whether you're using another tailback. So Sark's familiar with the Shanahan offense and how to deploy and weaponize a guy like Kyle Juszczyk. You can do the same thing with Juan Davis. Also, the go-go offense, which Brandon Marion brought to Texas for the 1 year he was there. Remember, that is also had a lot of exotic concepts using two back sets, but it was two tailbacks, triple option run game with a West Coast passing game. So he has that playbook too, and those options that he could use with Juan Davis to get a little bit more exotic. So I think that would be the way I would envision Juan Davis's role with the team. Wildcat plus their modern day Kyle Juszczyk. I've talked about that. All right. How do you boost the running game? You want to be able to boost the running game? I think you can do it by adding an old school kind of traditional fullback in the backfield, another blocker, but also just adding another body to the offensive line. The Big 12 package they use, or Big 11 package they use when they bring Malik Agbo out there as another added offensive lineman. Now, here's the thing. Last year, it did not boost the running game. From 2022 to 2023, the extra offensive linemen didn't boost the running game at all. You actually dropped a little bit in your yards per rush based on my calculations. You went from a little over 5 yards per rush to under 5 yards per rush out of that package. But the Kim Kardashian, Nicki Minaj, Serena Williams size, Cardi B size, Megan Thee Stallion size, but is your yards per attempt skyrocketed. You went from a little over 6 yards per attempt to over 10 yards per attempt when that 6-0 line package. Why? Present power personnel packages and pivot to play action pass principles. And you know what? I even take it, and that's what obviously Sark loves, play action. It's a big part of his offense, close to probably 50% of his passing game. You're talking about it's a deception-based passing game. Play action pass, throw in RPOs and throw in screens. And you're talking about 60+% of his passing game, deception-based passing game. But what I recognized, just eye test alone, was that the straight drop back, actually, you go look at the straight drop back opportunities, they actually increased exponentially with the 6-0 line pack. So Sark didn't use it to boost the running game with another big human. He actually used it to kind of rope-a-dope the defense into thinking it was going to be a heavier run set because it is a power set. And then he would use it as a straight drop back as a way to insulate Quinn and the pass protection and straight drop back. Getting back to Patrick's topic for the Big Fat Poll today, because your sack numbers increased and because your pressure rate, or at least the way that Quinn handled pressure, because that actually got worse last season from 2022 to 2023, Sark figured out a way to give Quinn more time on some of the deeper developing routes by just adding another offensive lineman to the mix. And he actually, a lot of times, got rid of the play action element. And usually play action is his bread and butter, but he decided to go more than half of the pass attempts out of the 6-0 line package was straight drop back. Straight drop back. So it's interesting the way he used it, but use it more. I thought it was really good. You look at the explosive play rate out of it. I mean, you were hovering around 25% explosive play rate out of it overall. Explosive pass play, your pass play explosive play rate was around over 25%. Your overall explosive play rate was over 18%. Still pretty damn good. But it's interesting that it didn't really boost the running game. I think it can, depending on if your offensive line is just more dominant, of course, but that wasn't the huge benefit for it last season. But I think you still should use it more. The big O-line package, the Big 11, Big 12 package. So that's something you can do. Also, I would throw out there, and I've said this before, I would become more of a pass first team. Use the pass to open up the run. All right. You look at early down pass rates, and I've talked about this before, when Sark's being really, really creative. And if you're trying to, close the talent gap on someone, or if you're, in this case for Sark, you lost a little bit of your talent advantage, and now you have to make up for that talent advantage you lost with a schematic, tactical, strategic advantage, which is the things that I'm trying to list here. You want to put the ball, I think, potentially in the hands. Now that you've lost your starting running back, you want to put the ball in the hands of your proven commodities. That's Quinn, third-year starting quarterback in his system, and your strengths will determine your identity. And the strength of this team is your quarterback, third year in the system, and with the same play caller. He's going to have a headset communication now. So now he can talk to his quarterback and help him decipher pre-snap more so than he ever could. And by the way, the fact that Sark has experience doing that in the NFL is also going to give him an advantage than someone who doesn't. So you'll have that. And your wide receiving core is deeper than it's ever been. You're going 6 deep. Even you admit that. That should be your identity. And that's why I think the early down pass rate should increase. Right now, Sark is probably 50, He's probably around a little over 52%, somewhere like that, probably in his early down pass rate, early down pass rate specifically. Because Sark wants to be balanced. Sark usually is 52% run. If you look at the sample size of the whole season, 52% run, about 48% pass. It could vary, but that's usually it. That's it for Sark. He wants to run the football, but he wants to be balanced. He preaches balance, balance, balance. You've heard him talk about it. He wants to be a balanced football team. I think you might need to change. I think you might need to alter that philosophy this season, at least early on in the game. And like I said, he's shown the tendency in big games, and you're going to have more of those this year. He's shown the tendency in big games to increase his early down pass rate, early down pass rate. And I think that's when he's really in his creative juices and he's really in his creative bag. He is, I think, inspired more by the pass. You go look at Alabama last year, 56% early down pass rate. Oklahoma, 58%. K-State was a ranked game, 58%. Oklahoma State was 62% in the Big 12 title game. I think that's where he leans in big games. Washington, not as high. That was about 53% early down pass rate, but that's because I think they were running the football successfully, as we know, out of the pony package, but I digress. I think that your early down pass rate now should be in early down pass rate should be between 55 and 60%. And it could be short, quick game, RPOs, muscle memory throws, essentially for Quinn, things that are second nature to him. And that's why your quick game should also increase. Right now, the quick game, anything between 0 to 9 yards, anything that's considered a three-step drop or less, right? So 0 to 3 steps, that's considered a quick game. And right now, Sark is probably 55% of their passing game is quick game. It should be 60%. In the NFL, it's easily 60% of the passing game is quick game. Sark is pretty balanced. Speaking of balance, you look at every level of the passing game. The line of scrimmage and back, and then 0 to 9 yards, and then 10 to 19 yards. The breakdown of the passing percentages, 27%, 27%, 27%. Balance. He's almost obsessed with it. I don't even know if he knows he's doing. He didn't even know he's so balanced, but that is kind of his mantra. And I think if you're looking at this year, your quick game should increase, because that should be your early down passes, which essentially are long handoffs, an extension of the running game. And those will be safer throws for Quinn. Well, they'll get him in a rhythm, and they're second nature throws. So quick game, should also increase. His screen game, Sark's a brilliant. So he's a brilliant, and I really do think a very sophisticated screen designer, right? He designed some of the best screens in football, college or pro. The screen game should go up, because the screen game essentially it's a run play. It's just instead of a handoff, it is a pass. It's basically a run play. It starts behind the line of scrimmage anyway. And the screen game right now for Texas is around 18% of your passing game screen game. There are teams that are much higher. Tennessee's at 27%. Georgia's at 23%. Oklahoma was at 22% last year. The screen game this year with the running back situation, that is something that also should increase. Essentially, it's a handoff. It's just via pass, safe, and Sark's one of the best designers of the screen game, and Texas is one of the best teams executing the screen game. Another thing I would throw out there was score first. Put an emphasis on scoring first. To this day, I still don't know why it matters so much in football, but it does. You go look at the teams in the NFL the last 10 years. Teams that score first win the game 64% of the time. It doesn't make a sense as to why that stat holds, but it does. I looked at a stat early on in the college football season for 2022, teams that scored first, and this was just in the first 2 weeks of the season, they won 78% of the time when they scored first. Sark was 3-2 last year when he didn't score first. The last 2 years, Sark has lost 7 games. 6 of them, the opponent has scored first. I don't know what it is psychologically in football, but it's something about scoring first. It's something weird about it, and I don't know. It's not enough of an emphasis on it, but it should be. And Sark was really good at it. And I think he was really good at it his first year and actually blew up in his face. He would score first, and Texas would lose the game. But usually, scoring first the win percentage is, I don't know. It tracks. Like, I don't know why. I haven't figured that out. But he should try to score first this year. Get out quick and score first and get a lead. That also would help your pass rush because you got a good one this year that can get home. So I don't know why, but score first. That throwing it out there too.
Now, is there any relevance to whether it's a field goal or a touchdown?
No, it's just about scoring first.
So
I swear it's crazy.
So the main very changeable rule in that is don't go for it on fourth down early in the game. It's 0-0, kick the field goal.
Yeah, score first.
Just put 3 points on the board, and you'll feel better. It'll just psychologically help your team more if you walk away with 3 points than getting stopped and not getting the points at all.
The numbers don't.
That's the most changeable thing about it, because otherwise, if you go 3 and out, you go 3 and out. You're trying to move the ball.
Yeah. No, I don't know what it is. I literally, I'm gonna have to study it and try to figure it out. I'm with you. I think it's confidence. Yeah. Is all I really can. And maybe that's contagious, but scoring first, guys, the numbers don't lie. It matters in the game. There's some other ones too that I'm gonna throw out there, and we can do that coming back on the side. I think he can get more variety. There's a red package. Speaking of leaning on your strengths, he used it at Alabama. 4 wide receivers on the field, 1 back, 0 tight ends. It's a 10 personnel grouping. He used it at Alabama. It was pretty lethal, but he had 4 first-round wide receivers. He can use it with this group too. So that'll add variety. And I think being more of a pass-first team, the red package is something he should break out this season because you have less depth at running back, more depth at wide receiver. And he's proven over time, looking at running back, looking at the O-line, when he's got an embarrassment of riches at a position in terms of the depth, he'll weaponize it. That's why he put extra offensive linemen out there, started playing 2 back sets because he was really deep at those positions. Well, now it's time in terms of that at the wide receiver position as well. All right, I got some more, but we'll get to those later. Let's get to what the facts, what the stats on the other side, right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let me tell you about my friend and the best dentist in Austin, Dr. Greg Eckert. That's right, folks. It doesn't matter what you need. Maybe it's just general dentistry. Maybe it's a routine checkup. Maybe you got to get your teeth cleaned. That's understandable. Whatever. Teeth whitening, dentures, porcelain crowns, veneers, dental implants, full mouth reconstruction, even root canal therapy, whatever it takes to ensure you're getting the best quality dental care available. That's what Dr. Yu and his team are all about. I know this first and foremost. I went there for a teeth cleaning and a checkup. And during that very thorough checkup, they found that my wisdom teeth were growing in sideways. I was on the verge of a disaster, potentially, folks. And it was no reason to be concerned, even though I was a little bit concerned. They eased my anxiety, informed me, and educated me about the entire process, made sure I was at ease. They got the procedure scheduled, got it done. I was back at work within a couple of days. And thanks to Dr. Eckert and his team, honestly, my dental health and my oral hygiene have never been better thanks to them. And they can do the same for you. And hopefully it's not something as serious as having all your wisdom teeth removed like I had to. Hopefully it's something routine, like just a cleaning or a checkup. But whatever it is, you're in great hands with Dr. Eckert and his wonderful team. And when anybody asks me if I know a good dentist, I tell them, no, I know the best dentist. I know a great dentist, Dr. Eckert, best dentist in Austin. He can be your dentist as well. And right now, he has the ability to give you a brand new smile in just one day, permanently secured to your dental implants. No time spent without teeth. You'll get temporary fixtures until they complete your permanent smile. And you're going to smile again with confidence, eat freely without pain or discomfort. It's a lifelike permanent solution. So if you've been told your teeth need to be replaced, or if you're you have dentures, or you've been told that you need dentures, or you have to have teeth removed, just call Dr. Greg Eckert today to learn about this revolutionary alternative to dentures. It's a brand new smile in just one day. Sounds too good to be true, but it's not. It's just Dr. U. That's what he does. So give him a call today. It's a complimentary consultation. So you got nothing to lose, but you got so much to gain, because a confident smile can truly change your life. So why don't you change your life for the better? The quality of your smile can affect the quality of your life, and Dr. U wants to give you a great smile so that you can have a great life. Give him a call, 512-345-3166. That's 512-345-3166, or visit dreckert.com, DRUECKERT.com. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to what the facts and what the stats here on the show. All right, I got one for you. How about this one? This comes from my friend Scott. He does a great job. Scott K on Twitter. He's just a stats guy, or data scientist. I bet it's probably a more accurate term. So how about this one? And if you look at Super Bowl winners and their scoring defense, so points allowed by Super Bowl winners, the Kansas City Chiefs rank last. Their 3 Super Bowls rank last, second to last in terms of points allowed, and then the 2023 defense, which allowed 15.8 per game, is ranked 34th on this list of Super Bowl winners in points allowed. Isn't that interesting? Like,
Yeah.
That's to me, that adds to the lure of Patrick Mahomes. It's like I think Spags is like one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. I think he really is. But among Super Bowl champions, I mean, they that's their defense has not been considered a great defense at all.
No, I mean, and you just gotta when you look at the offense, the 49ers, like the offense the 49ers have put together, the amount of talent on that roster offensively to try and compete with Patrick Mahomes and a group of no-name wide receivers that have been there. And they're throwing one of the best tight ends, the best running back, 2 top wide receivers, all on this one roster, and the best left tackle to go up against Patrick Mahomes and a bunch of guys they signed off the street at wide receiver and Travis Kelce. Let's not leave off Travis Kelce, but
don't leave off Travis Kelce.
But that is that's just it goes to show how good that he is because they're putting all that together and they're scoring points against a really good defense and they still can't win.
Yeah. No, it is. It's just phenomenal, and how good Patrick Mahomes is. All right, I know I had a couple of more stats, but we're up against it, so I will share those later in the show. At one point, I'll just kind of drop those in. I got a couple of NFL related stats, but coming back, we'll get into speaking of NFL news, notes, and nuggets. We'll talk some Cowboys. There is a report that the Cowboys are lowballing CeeDee Lamb. I don't know why that's the case. That may be one of the reasons that this contract negotiation is taking so long. We'll dive into it. Dak Prescott, he speaks on his contract negotiations with the Dallas Cowboys. We finally get an update there from Dak Prescott and also from Stephen Jones. So we'll talk some Cowboys on the other side. Also, there was a preseason game last night. We'll give you some of the low lights from that preseason matchup. We'll also dive into some of the transactions, the NFL headlines from this week. You're at a move that was made that I think solidifies this team as the division, at least the front runner to win that division, I should say. We'll talk about that too coming up. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a freak flag, feel good, make it till you make it. Ric Flair, woo! Football 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. And that's when my man Patrick, the Idealionaire, my co-host, he plays jams from local bands and artists, very talented human beings that you have a chance to catch live right here in the ATX. Who jamming right now, Patrick?
This is The Past Lives, and they are playing tonight at Stubbs.
Not bad. I like the name. All right. We also have the topic for the Big Fat Poll today, which is posted. You can go check it out at the Horn ATX. Patrick, tell the folks about the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day.
Big Fat Poll today. How many sacks per game will Texas allow this season? They allowed 2 per game last year. That is too high for what you want Texas to be at. But they're going to be going into a tough schedule. Right now, 1-2 is leading the way in a heavy favorite. With 60% of the vote is 1-2 sacks per game, which is not terrible. You'd like it. That's
not terrible.
That's better. You want it. You can't. You don't want to go into 2-3, which is only 7%. 0-1, 20%, 21% of people believe that they can get it down to 0-1, which would be really, really impressive if they get it down against. You've gone over it. We'll go over it again. The defensive players that they have to go up against this year. 0-1 would be extremely impressive.
Yeah,
if they could do
that,
that,
it would be. Yeah, I'm with you.
And then we got some haters on the back end at 3-4, 3-4 per
Ooh,
game. You
damn.
would be 3-4 per game.
I mean,
First of all, 3-4 per game.
An injury. You're an injury on the offensive line.
No, but that's
multiple injuries.
But that's 3-4 per game. If you say just 3 a game, means that first of all you're not playing in the playoffs.
Yeah, you're in the 40s. You're gonna get close to the 40s. You're basically in the 40s.
Yes.
At that point, like,
Whew.
yeah, you're getting close to 40 something sacks in the season allowed. Yeah, that's disastrous.
That is disastrous.
No.
I don't know.
Yeah, you would not be making the playoffs, and you're not in the SEC title game. So you're just making a bowl game. So yeah, you would definitely get there. Like I said, 13, you come close to 40 sacks. That that ain't happening. I say that it sounds arrogant, but I don't see that happening. That
I think
they'll make if they're on that pace, there'll be massive adjustments.
Yeah, exactly.
To curtail that. That's why. So if they do have a few games where pass protection issue, then they'll just change the offense and start, having shorter passes and basically becoming Kenny Pickett offense, which you saw last night. It'll just be
he still
5 yards per
attempt.
tip.
He still took 4 sacks though.
He still took. We Patrick and I still can't figure out. Usually, football just breaking down, kind of football logic. You take more sacks because you are trying to get the football downfield, spending more time in the pocket. So longer developing routes. That's why.
Yeah.
So, but for shorter developing routes, if you're only throwing like 5 yards, well, that ball can come out pretty quickly. I mean, guys are downfield pretty easily.
And if you're checking down. That's the whole point of the check down is to not get sacked.
Don't take the sack. So he's checking down and also getting sacked somehow. We don't know how it's happening. I don't know how that worked out, but yes, only Kenny Pickett can. Kenny Pickett is very sure. You know what? I'll give you that number after the headline.
I will say he did hold on to the football with his freakishly tiny hands. If we remember that whole debate when he was coming out of college.
Yes, about his he does have tiny hands. Yes, it was like him and President Trump during that election. Yes. Like it was about his hands, and he had to come out and he's like, "Hey, I got big hands too," and all this kind of stuff. Oh yes. Oh, those are fun times. All right, we'll come out. We'll talk about the game last night a little bit, but mostly I want to get into the Cowboys here. We have an update on reportedly the amount that the Cowboys have offered CeeDee Lamb, and it's possible that they're lowballing CeeDee Lamb. And when players get lowballed, usually it's going to end up being, a couple of $1 million difference at the most. I mean, they're not very far apart. It's not like some teams offering $10 million difference apart. Most time it's not even like a $5 million. We're talking about average annual salary. It's not that far apart, but it's the insult. You know what I mean? The continued insult and what is deemed as disrespect. And it's like, hold on, man, I've been playing for you. You guys know me. And this is what y'all going to offer me, that kind of thing. So that's how these things can go sideways because the players feels like they're disrespected. It's like, why do you I rejected that offer already. You're not gonna up your offer. I mean, I rejected that. I don't want that. So there is a report from Clarence Hill, the Fort Worth Telegram, about that there's a number that's out there about the offer from CeeDee Lamb. We'll discuss that because I think it may be a low ball offer if that is the case. Also, Dak Prescott speaks out on his contract negotiation with the Cowboys, and Jason La Canfora, interesting piece with the Washington Post. He got the thoughts of some executives and agents around the league. And they spoke on the condition of anonymity about the Dallas Cowboys unprecedented contract situations with their top 3 players. And it is unprecedented because I cannot remember any team in NFL history having to pay top market value for basically the 3 most premium positions in football right now. Think about it. They got to pay top dollar for quarterback. That is the most premium position in football. And Dak's going to want to break the market there. They got to pay top dollar for edge rusher. Most people believe that was or still is the second most premium position in football. Guy goes out to the quarterback. That's going to be Micah, highest paid non-quarterback. And lately, because there are more wide receivers in the NFL making at least $20 million than there are quarterbacks in the NFL making at least $10 million, that's soak in. And if you go look at the players who are making 30 plus million in the league, there are 6 of them, and 4 of them are wide receivers. That right now is considered the second most important position in football. And they got to pay top dollar for all of those positions and do it within a calendar year. I don't know if that's happened in the league. I don't know if
so
had to do
normally
that. That's rare.
What you would
because normally you do it piecemeal. You do it early.
So I'll give you an example of the piecemeal. Is the 49ers.
Yes.
They paid Nick Bosa. They paid Nick Bosa a bunch of money.
Mm-hmm.
They're now in conversations to pay Brandon Ayuk a lot of money.
Yep.
And then they will be in conversations with Brock Purdy to pay him a lot of money.
Yes.
But those will not all be at the same time.
No.
And that is where the Cowboys are. Is you go, normally that's the piece where you have guys and you go, you have 3 guys that are in the top ranking pay in all 3 categories, which is what all 3 of those guys will be. Nick Bosa, Brandon Ayuk, and
Purdy
and Brock Purdy will all be in the top of their rank, but they're doing them 1 year at a time. And over 3 years, you pay all 3, which you should have done was you should have had CD already done last year.
Yep.
Then you would have paid Dak early this year, and you would get Micah done before the end of this year.
And that'd have been more palatable.
And then it would be kind of all you spread out a little bit more. So Micah gets done near the end of the year. And you say, okay, but we're not going into the last year of his contract. We're not going into the 5th year of his contract and worrying about it. You just pay everybody and you're good, but you're spreading it out a little bit more than what they've done. And that's just
they got to pay 2 of them, like basically
back
right now.
Yeah.
Back to back. And then Micah is coming up. We assume Micah will be either right after the season or whenever, as soon as they can get Micah done. They should, but hell, knowing the Cowboys, they may not do it as soon as they can get it done. They may wait for some
reason. You gonna re-sign the guy with the podcast?
Right? Yeah. Knowing how much they love Micah will get it done really quickly.
No, I think they're gonna let Micah go out and talk about it and build up that value. Let Micah, let Micah talk about every single week about his contract negotiations. And Jerry will just sit there and go, you don't think I'm good with numbers?
Mm-hmm. Well, that would prove the theory that Jerry Jones' ultimate goal is just to increase the value of the Dallas Cowboys brand, not necessarily to do it by winning championships, but to do it by any means necessary. And that may be the salacious route, which nobody does better than Jerry. I mean, that's the Cowboys are the number 1 TV star on the number 1 TV show in America, and they're the first sports franchise in the world worth over $10 billion in the world. Like all these great soccer franchises in the world, you be like, so they haven't reached it? Like, no, they don't have the Jerry Jones formula. The Jerry Jones formula works. For Jerry, it does. Not for the rest of y'all, but for Jerry.
not doing it with Super Bowls, but
yeah. So like I said, just because it's bad business, don't mean it's bad for business. That's Jerry Jones' motto right there. Just because it's bad business, don't mean it's bad for business. There you go.
Yeah, except it takes Jerry 3 minutes to say that.
and then he'll throw out some analogy about the triple option and
Yeah.
and circumcising a mosquito, and
Yeah,
then
gotta go
everybody
to
will
the
get
glory
lost.
hole and
Yeah, and you'll be like, "What? What were we talking about?" And that's the whole point, by the way, of Jerry Jones. He wants to distract you with stuff like that too. And he's brilliant at it, by the way. And we all get distracted instead of focusing on the issue. All right, we'll talk Cowboys on the other side. Let's get educated first and updated and informed on all the top stories of the day with my man Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros will look to continue their run as the hottest team in baseball and add to their 8-game win streak as they take on the struggling White Sox tonight. The Astros have a .617 win percentage since April 27th and now have a 3-game lead in the AL West, while in comparisons in that same time frame have a win percentage of .260 and are now 15 games behind the second worst team in Major League Baseball. Spencer Arrighetti will get the call for the Astros following up tallying double-digit strikeouts in his last 2 outings. And the Rangers went to the bottom of the ninth, tied for the second straight game, but were not able to pull out the victory last night as the Twins manufactured a run on a sacrifice fly to win 3-2. Cody Bradford pitched 6 solid innings, and Adolis Garcia put together a 3-hit game, but it wasn't enough as the Rangers dropped the series opener. Andrew Heaney takes him out tonight with the Rangers hoping to even that series. And in the NFL, the Eagles got the win in their preseason matchup against the Patriots 14-13 after a late 2-point conversion for Philadelphia. This Saturday, the Texans will take on the Giants in Houston at noon, and the Cowboys play a late game against the Raiders at 9 p.m. in Oakland. And the Atlanta Falcons added another defensive player after making a trade for Matthew Judon by signing safety Justin Simmons to a 1-year deal. Simmons now joins Jesse Bates to form one of the best safety combinations in the NFL. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines there. Actually, I'll throw this out there real quickly. I don't know how you pick anybody else to win the NFC South other than the Atlanta Falcons right now. I mean, they've made all the right moves. First of all, I love the coaching move they made, bringing in Raheem Morris, who crazy to think that when I was in the league that he was a quality control guy with the Tampa Bay Bucks when I was with the Bucks, and now he's head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. He's brought in a great staff. I love Zach Robinson, so he's gonna essentially try to replicate what the Rams did because he has the Sean McVay, Mick Shanahan offense, what he's bringing in with Zach Robinson. They got a ton of just versatile freakishness on offense. Bijan, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. The offensive line's underrated. It's one of the better offensive lines in the NFL too, especially in the interior. Now you got an offensive coordinator who's not going to try to use Bijan and Kyle Pitts as decoys like Arthur Smith would. So you're going to get your playmakers to football. And then Raheem Morris, and you asked a great question, Patrick. I don't know if he's calling the plays or not. I know he hired Jimmy Lake, I believe is his defensive coordinator, who was actually longtime co-DC with PK. That was kind of his better half for years there at Washington. He's now in the league. So I don't know if he's calling it, but I know he's going to bring his defensive system that he had there with the Rams, which I like. And now you got that secondary is loaded, guys. You got Jesse Bates there already, who's arguably the best center fielder, one of the best center fielders in football right now. You got Jesse Bates. AJ Terrell is one of the top press coverage corners in the NFL right now. You just don't watch the Falcons. Who does? I do because I'm trying to watch Bijan more. You got Matthew Judon. Guy had damn near 50 sacks in the last 4 years. So that guy's a perennial pass rusher. And then now you throw in Justin Simmons, a Pro Bowl safety, in addition to Grady Jarrett on the defensive line, a really good player. They brought in Richie Grant, who's another DB that's a good player. Mike Hughes at cornerback is a good player. Caden Ellis is a good linebacker. The defense is going to be legit, and we know the offense is going to be able to score, especially with Kirk Cousins now and all those weapons. Say what you want about Kirk Cousins, but you know he's more than up to the task if he's got weapons around him, and he's got plenty to work with. So Atlanta's going to win that division, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's not that Kirk Cousins is bad in the regular season. That's never been his issue.
Yeah,
it's been playoff play. So yeah, you expect him to win that division. You look at the two teams that were tied for it last year were both 9-8, so it was just over 500 is all you had to get to in that division. The Bucks are losing a really good offensive coordinator in Dave Canales, who goes to the Panthers. So they're still gonna have a decent team there, but that is a big loss. And once again, Baker Mayfield has to deal with another offensive coordinator. The path continues for Baker Mayfield that he can't keep an OC.
No.
So he'll have to deal with that. The Saints are they're going to be okay team, but I think this is the year the Falcons can push ahead. And the Panthers, I'm going to enjoy watching them this year. I want to see where JT Sanders ends up. I want to see what Jonathan Brooks is able to do. I really like Dave Canales as a coach. So it'll be interesting to see if Bryce Young, if that experiment is working out or not. I'll be interested to watch the Panthers this season, but I'm also not, they're not going to be a threat to win the division. I don't think I'd see that turnaround coming for the Panthers.
Yeah. Tampa is the threat for me, but I think Atlanta, is going to make a move this year, and it'll for a first year coach. I guess that could work against you, but he was an interim coach there. I forget how many games. Remember, he was an interim coach there for a while, so he's got some experience as a head coach. He won't be totally unfamiliar with that position, and I think he's going to do a good job. I'm not just saying that personally because I have a connection with him, but I think he's actually going to do a really good job with it. I think he's making all the right moves.
Yeah, and I think that those guys, when you bring in a guy who has experience, but was passed over for the job, I think he's probably worked in the last couple of years to try and figure out what those differences are, talk to people, and go, what did I do wrong that first time where I wasn't able to keep it, and try and grow as a coach, and see if he can grow up that next level.
And that was with that organization too.
Yes.
That he got passed over for. So you're right. Good point. All right. The lesson learned. I think there's always a lesson you can learn from watching a preseason game. Lesson learned from last night's game. Playing quarterback is hard. It's just a hard position to play. Toughest position to play in football at any level, no matter if you're an NFL veteran or if you are a high-level rookie. The Patriots quarterbacks versus the Eagles, listen to these numbers. They combined to be 14 of 29, 113 passing yards, 3.1 yards per attempt, a 44.2 passer rating, and they took 3 sacks, 0 passing touchdowns, and 1 interception between the group. Drake May, Joe Milton, the third, Jacoby Brissett, Bailey Zappi. Oh man, it's tough to play the quarterback position. It ain't easy. And then I look on the other side, Philadelphia, and their quarterbacks fared much better. Tanner McKee and Will Greer and Kenny Pickett. But Kenny Pickett is becoming the ultimate check down Charlie in the NFL. It's pretty amazing. We were just talking about this earlier. I don't know how if you're Kenny Pickett, I don't know how he did it, but somehow he ended up taking 4 sacks in that game, and he had 5.2 yards per attempt, which is mind blowing because if you have you're getting rid of if you're taking a lot of sacks, usually you're looking downfield at longer developing routes. But if you're not looking downfield and you're throwing the ball short and you're checking it down, which he does a lot of, then you shouldn't be taking sacks. Just shows you how good of a coach, honestly, Mike Tomlin was. Because you go look at Kenny Pickett, he had 24 starts. 24 starts in his career. The Pittsburgh Steelers scored more than 20 points just 6 times in his 24 starts. And they still went 14-10 in that time span. And by the way, the toughest division arguably in the NFL too. It's just Mike Tomlin coaching his butt off. And I remember the first week in the preseason, Kenny Pickett, he had something like 23 dropbacks in the first half of that game, and he only threw the ball more than 10 yards downfield 4 times, and it was 0-4 on those completions. This game, in this first half, he had 11 first half completions, but only averaged less than a yard per completion. 17 total dropbacks, took 4 sacks, averaged 4.8 air yards per attempt, and 5.2 yards per attempt. Kenny freaking Pickett. And yet, if you look at the quarterback in the NFL right now who has the best win percentage in fourth quarter comeback opportunities and in game-winning drive opportunities, it's Kenny Pickett. Just showing you that numbers do lie sometimes. He's the only quarterback ahead of Patrick Mahomes right now on that list. I BS you not. But it's all Mike Tomlin and the Steeler culture. It got nothing to do with it. They're playing tight games. Last year they were really good in 1-score games. Got nothing to do with Kenny Pickett. But that's one of those freaky numbers that'll lie to you. But that's why they shipped him out of town. they were still winning in spite of him, but they needed to up it at quarterback. Anyway, all right, that's the lesson I learned last night. Quarterback is hard, and when you find a quarterback that can play at a high level, you might want to pay him. This gets us to the Dallas Cowboys, ladies and gentlemen. So this is Dak Prescott. He spoke to, I believe it's Jory Epstein of Yahoo Sports, if I'm not mistaken. He spoke to her about his contract situation with the Cowboys. And he really is speaking like someone who is just seems like they have a very good awareness of who they are right now as a player and a person. It seems like his self-awareness is at an all-time high, and he is speaking kind of in a deep and existential way about his situation with the Cowboys. So listen to this. He was asked about his contract situation. This is Dak's quote. I'm free right now, as in where I am in life, what I've done here. Not what I've done here, but who I've been here. Understanding that, sure, I'm deserving of the next contract. But then again, I mean, I told my boy Luke, his physical therapist, this game is judged off winning the Super Bowl, and I understand people's angst. Maybe their angst and me having not done that. Hey, if these people want to move on, it's a business. But I know, as I said in the media, it's a two-way street. Things have to be right from my end as well. Very zen. Very zen. It just seems like this is not even stressing him out at all, that there is this for him, this security and comfort that he's going to be all right no matter what happens. Like, nah, I'm good. And listen to the quote. He goes on to say, because he actually, I don't know, implies that, hey, no matter what happens, even if it's not with the Cowboys, he'll be fine. He says, and he also kind of implies a timeline here. Listen to this. To say I'm free means I'm in no rush, whether it happens before camp, during the season, or at the end of the season when other people have opportunities. My focus and mindset that allows me to be free is, hell, I'm getting paid a lot of money to play the game that I love right now. And I'm not going to cheat that for one bit. I'll give everything to my teammates and not stress about this, because I have to make sure I go home and give everything to these two. He was talking about his fiance and his new baby as well. I'm good with whatever happens. It's very zen. It's very zen. He seems like he's really self-aware of like his status with the team, and he's really confident in what he's done with the team. I haven't heard Dak speak like that, but this is Dak as a dad, so he's evolving as a man and as a player. But he does imply that he's fine with if the Cowboys carry this over into the season, and like he says, even get it done at the end of the season. That is new. That is new. I think some people thought maybe if he gets to the season, it'd get contentious, and then that maybe Dak would, not want to take that risk. Seems like Dak's not concerned about that at all, Patrick. Seems like Dak's in the place that he is, which seems like a good place, that he's just willing to play, and he just wants to play, and the contract will figure itself out. It feels like he got that kind of attitude. It's a good attitude to have.
It is. I wonder, too, it feels like there may be a little piece, too, in there of him and his agent realize that Jerry has an old message of deadlines make deals. And
that is true. He said that.
And
he said that several
Dak
times.
just wants to go, Jerry, just let you know, there's no deadline. Deadline's free agency. So if you want to say that and you think it's week one that I'm going to cave, or the week one and we're going to have this whole argument and we can go through it, it's not. I'll show up and I'll play. Let's go through the season. Let's go try and do it, because there's two ways it goes. One, I don't do as well this season. I still go out. I'll still make $60 million next season in free agency. I'll be gone. And it's fine. Or I win you a bunch and you got to pay me even more money.
Even more money. And you know what? Jerry would be fine with that. Jerry would be fine with him going to the NFC title game and just like, I'll pay you whatever you want, man. Because that's all Jerry really wants. Jerry just wants to win. Jerry, he does want to win. He does. He just wants to do it his way. And wants to get credit for it too. He wants to get all that. So Jerry would be fine with that, because then Jerry would get the credit, and then Jerry can do it his way and be like, I told you it would work. I wanted to incentivize them. I wanted everybody in a contract year. We all playing in the contract. This is all in. I told you we was all in from the start. You know what I mean? I bet Jerry needs a little work, but I'm getting better. Okay, so
You get too excited. You gotta.
I
Jerry
get too
doesn't
excited. I know.
You gotta pull it back.
I know, but I talk like Jerry. I do get excited. It's very strange.
Yeah, Jerry doesn't. Jerry
Um,
doesn't get too excited.
He doesn't.
He's
He's just.
calm.
It's very. Yes, you're right. Good point. He doesn't get. I get overly excited with it. How about this? Jason Lockenfor spoke to on the condition of anonymity. He spoke to several agents and NFL executives about the Cowboys situation being as unique as it is, and we talked about that. One NFL exec. I'll just read these little blurbs, these little excerpts from the piece here from the Washington Post. One general manager said, Jerry totally screwed this up, said one NFL general manager who has dealt with numerous high-end quarterback negotiations. He spoke on the condition of anonymity because he is not permitted to comment on other teams' personnel moves. Quote from the general manager, either pay him or lose him, the GM said. One longtime NFL contract negotiator who is not permitted to speak about players on the contract of the team said, it makes no sense whatsoever. Jerry has cost himself a not inconsequential amount of money already, and it keeps adding up pretty quickly with how the market has moved. He said, I can't tell you precisely when we reached a point when it became irrefutable, universal truth that at certain positions, the next guy up was going to leapfrog everyone else, even if he wasn't quite the same caliber of player and reach a new price point plateau. But in this instance, it is absolutely irrefutable that this is going to be the case. As someone on the other side of those things, trust me, I wish it didn't work this way, but it does. This is our reality. They've absolutely painted themselves into a corner as a franchise with the quarterback, and I'm honestly even more baffled they didn't get ahead of this CeeDee Lamb deal. That's close to $100 million in a season on just two players, no matter what Jerry thinks, and that's us talking today. By March, we're looking at even more. He said here, I asked an agent who has negotiated plenty of high-end quarterback deals how he would approach the situation with Dak. He says Dak gets to top of the mountain, and it's not close. It says on the condition of anonymity, I think Jerry has lost it, said that agent. It also points out here one executive in the NFL said, I don't think he sees himself winning the Super Bowl with this quarterback. He said, and honestly, I look at his roster and I agree with him. I wouldn't want to pay Dak Prescott $60 million either, but at Jones's age, what else is he going to do? Start over with a rookie next year? He doesn't have 3 years to play that out. Jerry's frustration with not being able to get his team over the top is showing more and more, and he knows that time is not on his side. However much he used to listen to other people about management of his team, I think that's happening less and less. So someone, another free agent said, agent said here, it's pretty simple. If this player is a free agent and he has a market, and if you have two teams, you have a market, and Dak Prescott will have a market, then he will get $60 million a year. I don't understand why we haven't done this already and why we aren't doing this now. The price is the price. There you go. So now it's not only us who are baffled and stupefied and and really just totally blown away by Jerry Jones and the Cowboys' inability to get these deals done. Seems like everybody's a bit confused and befuddled about why this is taking so long. So it's not just us, professionals too.
Yeah.
So I don't get it.
I don't either.
I think a lot of it is cash, but who knows what it is. It could just be Jerry wants the publicity, and he's getting it. He's getting it. And the formula works. All right. You got a point you want to make, Patrick? Sorry.
No, we're good. We're good. No, it's Jerry. Just I don't think Jerry thinks that there's no time. I don't think Jerry. I genuinely think Jerry thinks he will live forever, and he knows he won't. But I think he thinks he will, but he knows he won't.
Yeah, Jerry doesn't think about. I don't think Jerry's thinking about his mortality and death or anything like that.
Because the reality is, if you think about your mortality, then you're not trying to have the best valued franchise. You're trying to sell the best valued franchise and have this money and have this. He still wants to win. Like it's all still about winning. It's all still about whether that winning is in the marketplace or on the field. It's all just about what I'm going to do and keep moving forward. Eventually it's going to come for him, but at some point, I don't think there is. I don't think in his head he believes that if I have to pay Dak and CeeDee and they want all this cash, if cash is a problem, I could see both of them being gone next year.
Yeah, because he was thinking about his mortality. My thing would be you spend the cash.
Yeah.
Because you can't take it with you.
No.
Your kids and your family, they got plenty so they'll be fine for the rest of their
Steven's
lives.
fine.
Yeah, they're fine. So you want to win the Super Bowl. So you're like, I can't take it with me. That's what they say is happening in Oregon right now. That's the theory, is that Phil Knight is looking at, Father Time and thinking about mortality and going, I want to win a national title before I die.
Yeah, this is the best chance we got right now.
And if I got to spend a couple of billion to do it, who gives a damn? I got 30, 40 billion. I'm good.
No, I don't think Jerry cares about that. I think he's looking just straight ahead, pointing and just going, no, we'll rebuild. We'll get Shador and we'll be good to go.
Oh, wow.
We'll go get Shador. That's it. By the way, if you hate Dak Prescott, watch Colorado this year. Because if it's not Dak, every rumor you hear and everyone looking at it will tell you that that's the quarterback that Jerry would look at, and Jerry would go with Shador.
If they're going to trade up to get him, then.
Well, yeah, they'll give up.
I assume the Cowboys are going to be decent enough to make the playoffs. They're going to trade up to get him because he's going to be one of the top 3, 4 quarterbacks second. And these days, they get you drafted in the top 15.
Jerry wanted to trade up to get Johnny Manziel. If he likes his guy, he's going to go for him.
Oh man, yeah, you're right. Oh, I didn't even think about this. Could be kind of reliving that. Then the Deion to Dallas thing, because Mike McCarthy's gonna be on the hot seat. And he may be out because he's a lame duck coach. I'm exhausted just thinking about it. All right, let's talk some Texas football. Come back. We'll hear from Michael Taft. We'll hear from Kelvin Banks on the other side right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. I'm getting some Texas football conversation and go behind the burnt orange curtain. We're going to hear from Michael Taft and Kelvin Banks. Both those guys spoke to the media yesterday at the media availability and asked them about a lot of different things. I want to start off with some of the Michael Taft sound. He spoke to the media, and Michael Taft has actually, I think, grown a lot. I mean, ton. You can tell that now he's got a different era to him. That his confidence has grown, and it should, because now he's a leader on this team. People look at Taft Daddy as one of the leaders, and he's grown into a guy, earned his reps as a starter from being a walk-on. Here's Michael Taft, and when he was asked about the other guys in that secondary he's playing with, specifically Andrew Makuba and Jade Barron, they're really close. And the closer you are, off the field, it'll help you on the field in terms of being hive-minded guys, seeing the same things, reading the same keys, and being on the same page defensively in the secondary. You have to have that, and hanging out together, working out together off the field, it does help that communication, that camaraderie, that chemistry that you need to have, no matter what position you're playing. If a guy you're playing next to and you hang out with that guy, or even gal, whatever sport you're playing, that time together, you'll see that benefit on the field. And that, I'm hoping that is the case in the secondary, because learning now that Andrew Makuba, Jade Barron, and Michael Taft, they have spent a lot of time together. Shout out to BAM Performance. Bernard is his name, but he everybody knows him as BAM Performance. All the DBs in the area work out with him, and he's great. He's fantastic. He's developing a hell of a resume of DBs at the next level and at the highest level. But here is Michael Taft talking about how those guys really got close, and how all of them from the same area here in Central Texas, how really working out together away from the practice field has really kind of helped them as a group grow closer.
Yeah, so we started training with our DB trainer in the Austin area, Band Performance. I want to say sophomore year of high school, but I think Jade and Andrew trained with them before I even was there. So, but when it was with me, it was sophomore year of high school, and then COVID hit, and so we were there every single day. There was really nothing to do besides work out, eat, and sleep, and play Fortnite during COVID. So that was what we were doing. So we were training every single day. Us three, a couple other guys that are playing D1. And it was just so fun. Our bond kind of started there, but once we all three got back together here this winter, we knew what it was. We're so excited to be together. It's so fun. I can't wait for our journey to start.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I found out listening to an interview Alex Okafor did on his Behind the Face Mask podcast with Andrew Makuba, that Andrew Makuba and Jade Barron have been tight since like 8th grade. That they've been tight since 8th grade. So, and this is the first time that all those guys are getting to play together. Should be pretty interesting. I think that'll really help that unit overall in terms of the communication and all the different the different elements that they have to be hive-minded on in terms of reading keys, pre-snap, move, being able to be all those different moving parts in the secondary. So that's something to consider. Also, he was asked about Silas Bowden, who's gotten a lot of praise so far in training camp. He's a small guy, but he plays big. And every time someone is asked about who's standing out and who's making the most wild play, Silas Bowden's name comes up. Here's what Michael Taft had to say about Silas Bowden so far.
He's a monster. Do it all. Selfless guy. Whatever he needs to do, whatever the coaches need him to do, he's going to do it. And I'm sure y'all have heard the speed, the hands, the routes, but I want to mention that how selfless of a player he is. I told him that the other day. I was like, dude, never lose that. I've never seen somebody that's, got so much hype, but not let that hype get to him and just put his head down and grind. He's a beast. All respect to Silas.
All right, so Silas Bowden's still getting a lot of love, man. One of the smallest receivers we've ever seen on the 40 acres, but from what I'm hearing, he makes a lot of big plays. Quinn's hoping to make some big plays this season, and DBs have a very unique take, and they have a very unique view of quarterbacks because you compete against them. You kind of see how the way they, manipulate defenders, and you get a really good view of the quarterback. So I'm really interested to hear what Michael Taft has to say about Quinn. But he's talking here about Quinn's leadership. And anytime Sark is asked about where Quinn has grown the most, they always point out leadership, the intangible, the immeasurable. Here is Michael Taft talking about Quinn's leadership and the growth in that area.
I just think that his relationship basis with people, with our teammates, has grown so much. I think he understands as a leader. There's different leadership styles. Comparison is a thief of joy, and so I'm not going to compare him to anybody. But I know that every leader is a leader by example, and that's what Quinn does best. He leads by example. He's so positive to all his teammates, and just going back on that relationship point, he's got a relationship with every person, whether it's a freshman walk on. I was at that point one time in my life. He's talking to that freshman walk on, or it's his starting center. He has the same relationships, and I think that's so cool, especially knowing how, being in that position before, just seeing how cool it is that, Quinn takes that approach.
Yeah, I'm glad that he's trying to, build these individual relationships with guys on the team. It's important for a quarterback. Everybody wants the quarterback's time on the team, and it's important that he uses his time and wisely, but that he hangs out with different guys, has his own individual relationships with players and different groups on the team. It seems like Quinn is trying to forge that. Here's a great question that Michael Taft was asked about the headset communication. We talk about the advantage it's going to give offenses, the headset communication between the coach, or the play caller, I should say, and the quarterback. Well, on defense, they're also able to communicate with whoever has the green dot, if you will, the headset communication. Here's what Michael Taft had to say about what advantages it will give the defense when they're able to communicate with the sideline.
Well, I think it's going to be a key part in IDing offensive formations, because we take pride in getting lined up, getting set, getting the call, and bending our knees and having a good football stance before the ball snapped. Because if we can win pre-snap, then we're gonna have a pretty good chance in those 7 seconds that the play is gonna be run. And so what the earpiece really helps is one of the coaches being like, hey, number one's got a tight split to the boundary, alert the over. Now we can push as the safeties. Or, hey, that back is chowed, meaning that back's wide. He's probably going to run a wheel. Hey, let's alert this linebacker. Let's alert this safety or this D end or something like that. And so that's really helpful, because I think a coach can see it from a eagle eye view better sometimes than that, that point of view that we have. And so I think that's going to be the most important thing. I know relaying the calls and everything like that, that's the known is obviously important, but IDing offensive formations is definitely important too.
You can tell Taft Daddy's got a really high football IQ. Let's hear from Kelvin Banks, the All-American Kelvin Banks. He was asked about some of his teammates, specifically on the offensive line. Here is Kelvin Banks on Jake Majors, who, man, seems like he's been a staple on that offensive line for the last 3 years. Here's him on the starting center for Texas.
Jake brings so much to the field and locker room. On the field aspect, leadership, knowing where guys have to be, helping them out when they mess up, trying to help mistakes. And even in the locker room and off the field, he's making sure guys is like together, always make sure we talk. Even sometimes there'll be times where we'll be just sitting around and not talking, and he'll just start up conversations and try to get guys just talking to each other, no matter if you barely talk to them or not. And what was the second question again?
Oh, you think he's overlooked, and is that kind of inherent with being a center sometimes?
Yeah, in my opinion, I feel like in our program, Jake is definitely not overlooked. But if you was to go in the outside world, I couldn't say. I'm not really too much in the social media aspect. But in my eyes, I feel like Jake is the best center I could ask for. So I feel like he's not overlooked at all.
I think he is, but I get the question and I get his answer too. But yeah, I think he is overlooked. I think we all take him for granted because initially they've been upgrading talent in that offensive line room for a while, but they haven't been able to slap Jake Majors. I mean, Jake Majors has been a starting staple on that offensive line for now going on 4 years now, like 4 years starting at center.
Yeah, no, the fact that he came back this year and you think about what that means for the team, it should tell you that if you are overlooking him, that's you're missing a huge point of what this team needs. We talk about those sacks and trying to lower that number.
Yeah,
Having a center who can understand where things are supposed to be,
and he's a smart one.
that's a big thing.
And I want to say, I mean, CB told me, like, if you go do the math, that he's got a chance to actually set records, I believe, in terms of starts at the end of this season. When you start looking at if they play, 15 games or whatever it is, and he starts all those games, like, I think he could come close to like setting a record for start, because he's been starting, like I said, for 4 years now. Interesting. It's amazing. Okay, can we get to the? This is my favorite one. I know where we get to break, so this is my favorite one. Can we get to cut 22? And this is Kelvin Banks talking about the pride in protecting Quinn Ewers. And this may be one of the all-time greatest lines for any left tackle in the history of football. Here's Kelvin Banks.
Yes, I take a lot of pride in making sure Quinn is not touched by my man, because that's kind of the main focus as any old lineman is winning your box, and then once you win your box, you can start to build more and more. But once you winning your one thing Flood always says that just came to mind is he always tell you win your one-on-ones. If you can't win your one-on-ones, you can't play. So as long as you win your one-on-ones, you'll be fine. So it's definitely a big pride and joy I take making sure Quinn is protected.
I love that. I take a lot of pride in making sure Quinn isn't touched by man. I think we should put that on, like, whenever he's inducted into the Hall of Honor, and I don't know, whenever he gets like his enshrinement because of his All-American status, they should put that quote up there. I take a lot of pride in making sure Quinn is not touched by man. Oh, it's a great quote. Good job there, Kelvin Banks. All right, we come back. We'll get into the off the record story of the day. We got a bunch of them, but we'll get into that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis of Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Rivers coming back on the horn. Mm-mm-mm-mm. All right, a couple of topics here I want to get into. First of all, did y'all hear about y'all know this the lady Ray Gun?
Oh,
The B girl, yes, the Australian break
Yes.
dancer who everybody said, made a mockery of breaking in the Olympics. Some people felt really strongly about this. I don't know why, but they did. And I don't know, maybe she did make a mockery of it.
People who did not know breaking was in the Olympics on Thursday morning and by Saturday morning were outraged.
Outraged. And
How could you ruin this thing that's been a thing for a day?
Well, and some people thought that, and you know this because you actually informed our listeners of it prior to breaking when you were breaking it down, no pun intended, that it was a 1 year experimental thing that they were not going to continue, but people thought they discontinued it because of her.
Because
that was some of the fake news out there too.
Yes,
like, it was so bad, and that
all
they
these
like,
all these clickbait sites making stuff up.
Yes, and so she had to put out a video. Basically, she put out a video like basically saying it. She said that the criticism to her has been devastating, and has asked people to stop harassing her and her family. She said, "I didn't realize that would also open the door to so much hate, which has frankly been devastating." She said,
"Yeah, no, it's
play her
the problem with society. The fact that no one can tell you who won breakdancing, no one cares who won breakdancing, but the person who was last place ruined everything. If you can't tell me who won, then you don't get to complain about who lost."
No. I agree with you, by the way. And I think the quote that I remember about our society in a nutshell that is fantastic. It says, basically, you have a lot of people who are very passionate about stuff they know nothing about.
Yes.
And that is kind of the biggest problem with social media is people are really passionate about stuff. They have no idea. They have no education about it at all. It's like, but I'm passionate about it. It's but the passion's not helping.
Believe me, I have to not get in arguments online because I realize I do not have the time nor the patience to deal with people who have the time and patience to deal with this. But that was like when the Olympics, when everybody went, I can't believe breaking's in and baseball's not. And you're like, you know the difference in these two things, right? One is a 1 year. They can do it they did it in less than 12 hours, both men's and women's, and they did it in one spot that probably held 5,000 people, maybe maybe 2,000.
It was pretty intimate.
Yeah, it was a smaller room. And then like baseball, they would have had to build parks in France and have multiple of them, and it would have taken
how big are the rosters,
and it would have taken 2 to 3 weeks during the middle. Also, by the way, I watch baseball every night of the Olympics. It wasn't like I was missing anything. I still watch baseball. That's true.
Yeah, and they have an international tournament now.
Yeah, now I would say softball.
Baseball.
I'll give you more that softball would be really cool to see in the Olympics. Baseball, I don't care about. The World Baseball Classic's fine, but
they have
softball would be more fun to watch in the Olympics. I'd like to watch that in the Olympics.
Yeah,
and baseball. By the way, I think they're both in the LA Olympics. I think they'll both be there in the LA Olympics. So
I got no problem with whatever they want to put in the Olympics.
I agree.
The real issue is that people are so passionate. They're very passionate and have no
mad
idea.
At this person.
Yeah, and then they don't know anything about the sport or the person. But there you go. That's us in a nutshell. Hey, we love it. I would say that sports is, sports a little different. So I think honestly, people are more educated on sports than they are a lot of those other issues, especially like football. Like people know ball in this country. All right, let's get to this too. Nicolas Cage. It has been reported that Nicolas Cage is going to play John Madden in a John Madden biopic. I'm not making this up. This is real. I thought it was fake news too. I was like, no, he's not. So I guess it's going obviously a lot of makeup, and he's gonna put on a fat suit, gain some weight, that kind of thing. I don't know how he can pull it off, but he's a good actor. So acting wise, it won't be a problem. I just don't know if he
Nicolas
looks
Cage
like John Madden
takes a flight to any of the recordings, it's not the Nick Cage I know. Nick Cage has got to go full John Madden immersion.
Oh, in the bus
and ride the bus.
Go full character, immersion in it. Yeah. No, I mean, this is the official word from Hollywood Reporter is that Nicolas Cage is going to play John Madden in the biopic. I would say this about Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage is so prolific. Like, have you ever looked at his filmography?
Well, so
he works more than any other. I don't know if there's an actor that works more.
No, I mean Sam Jackson did for a while. I think Sam Jackson slowed down now, though.
He's surpassed Sam Jackson. Now, in terms of just the pace he's on right now. The pace. Well, it's crazy.
And he's talked about that, though, where he was like, look, I'm taking care of my mom. I'm taking care of some. He's like, yeah, they're going to pay me a lot of money to go act. I'm going to go act.
Yeah,
Like they're
he does
paying,
it.
like I'm supporting people in my family with this money, so I'm gonna go do
He's
it.
doing about 5. He's doing about 5 movies a year.
You did.
Like,
I did
yeah.
like I believe this was from Master Pancake, who is a group of people here in town that do mock movies, are really, really funny guys. But they explained Nick Cage, they did a Cage-a-thon and put all these clips together, one of their shows they did. And the way they
That's funny.
explained Nick Cage, which I thought was the best, was that Nick Cage is abstract art.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that take.
Because he picks a way he's gonna do a movie, and
Man,
it sometimes works and it sometimes doesn't.
Sometimes it's disastrous.
But it's like it's always interesting to see what he does, and he's like he's 100% in on whatever he does.
Yeah, and he doesn't. It's crazy. Like some actors, especially because he's an A-list actor. A-list actors won't even do the scripts he does. Like they won't even entertain the scripts. But he will do damn near any script. It can be cheesy, whatever. And you're right. He will pick the way he wants to act, and he goes all in. And a lot of times you're like, the way you're playing this role doesn't fit the plot of the movie at all. Like, what's going on here? And that's when you get to come to the after, like, say, what is he doing? Is he doing this is he being this bad on purpose? And he's a great mix of, he is a good actor. We all know this, who can be one of the best bad actors out there.
Yeah.
In a movie. And it's not necessarily because he's terrible at acting. It's because he will choose to play a role in a plot that doesn't really fit. And it's like, it's amazing. I watch a lot of random Nicolas Cage movies, and I don't know why. Because I just stop, because he doesn't discriminate in the scripts he picks. He'll pick any damn thing.
Did you hear the other news that Hulk Hogan is apparently threatening to sue Ben Affleck and Matt Damon for that movie
because of
we
the movie
talked
they're
about?
making?
That they want to make the movie about Gawker.
Yeah.
He's apparently threatening to sue them now that he does not want that movie made.
I mean, why? You already are seen as a racist, and what is it? I don't understand. Like, what are they going to paint you in a worse light than you already been seen?
It's Hulk Hogan. It's hilarious.
You're known as a liar. You're known as an habitual liar and a racist. I mean, what are they going to? What can be worse? I mean, there are things that can be worse, but for him, what's going to be revealed on that is going to make people perceive him worse than
I don't know. Maybe he wants to add. Maybe he wants to add very litigious to the.
Yeah, he's like,
wait. You're
like,
suing someone over a lawsuit movie? Come on, man. The
irony, right? Anyway, so Nick Cage, once again, he's going to play John Madden. It's just like in 2023, this dude had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He had 6 movies come out in 2023. And in 2024, he's already had 3. And there's some others ones that are coming out too. The dude is he just won't take a break at all. He's constantly working. All right. What's your favorite Nick Cage movie? You got one? Mine might be Adaptation, actually.
I don't know. Maybe I have to go back to like Raising Arizona. I don't watch a lot of movies though.
You got to go way back. Yeah.
I'm sure there's one that I just can't think of that I really liked of his, but I can't think of it.
It's got to be before like 2010, because that's when he got real crazy on making all kind of wild stuff, and he just wouldn't turn down the script. So before that, though, he was doing like, Lord of War and like National Treasure and Matchstick Men. He was being more selective about his the scripts he was picking. And Adaptation might be my favorite that he did, because it's got Meryl Streep in it.
The Wicker Man,
really
Wicker Man, when he's got the the bees.
Yeah, exactly. So those are some really good ones. But now it's hard to find a good Nicolas Cage flick, man, because he'll just pick any damn thing. All right, there you go. Random conversation. That's what Off the Record is for. We come back, we'll get into some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. Also, Rod's rant of the day. That's a Longhorn related rant that we'll dive into. We'll talk about ESPN's list of the top 100 players in college football, the top 50 players in college football by Pro Football Focus, and we'll see where the Longhorns are ranked and where the Longhorns' opponents are ranked. All that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the Horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a Freak Flag Feel Good, Fake It Till You Make It. Ric Flair, woo! Football 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. And that's when my co-host, Patrick Davis, the Idillionaire, plays jams from local bands and artists, very talented human beings that you have a chance to catch live right here in the ATX. Who we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Sam Pace in the Gilded Grit. They are playing Saturday at Central Machine Works.
I like that.
Like
it's pretty funky.
It's
It's
a little
pretty
funky. Song named
Yeah.
Pablo Gelato.
Mm-hmm.
So
I like
that
that.
Poblano ice cream there. Poblano
pretty good.
Gelato.
Yeah. No, like I said, it's a funky little groove right there. Yeah. They just said funky too. There you go. See, I knew I was on the right track. All right, there you go. Thank you, Patrick, for the all of the great bands and artists that you feature on 512 Friday. Also, thanks to you for the topic for the Big Fat Poll today, which is also posted. You can go check out the topic for the Big Fat Poll today. It is on the X account at the Horn ATX. Patrick, what's the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day?
Big Fat Poll of the day today. How many sacks per game will Texas allow this season? We were listening to some Kelvin Banks sound. Talking about how last season they had allowed 28 and 14 games. That was 2 a game. That is too many. They were 80th in the country in that. They had 19 in 13 games in 2022. You want to get that number down to in the ones. It was 1.5 in 2022, but you like to get even a little bit lower than that. Right now, the poll, people say 1 to 2. So in the acceptable range, I think between 1 to 2 with the amount of defenses you're playing is still acceptable. You'd like to get it lower. I didn't really want to put 1.5 because we just have enough space. But you want to get it into that acceptable number right there. 2 to 3 means you're going probably the wrong direction. And that means that Quinn is not finding the way to get the ball out better, or that you really wanted to see Quinn take that step forward. If you get it down between 0 and 1, then you're probably doing pretty dang well.
Yeah, you're gonna be you might be a Joe Moore Award finalist for your O-line if you got those kind of numbers.
And if you get to 3 or 4, which is currently in 4th place right now, something's gone terribly wrong.
There you go. And I don't think it'll get there, even if they have a couple of bad games that start on that pace. I trust the coaches enough where they will make the necessary adjustments. Whether that be the depth of the routes, whether that be with getting the ball out quickly, whether that be with going to more of a conservative approach, the coaches will figure that out if they have a few games that are that bad. I don't anticipate that happening. I think this O-line is going to take a step this season, and they need to, because they definitely need to in terms of their run blocking, but also pass protection. I think the pass protection issue is actually a lot more on Quinn than they are on the O-line. And I think if he improves, and he talked about how he's working on stepping up in the pocket. And we talked about him being able to manipulate the pocket better, become a pocket scientist, create time and create space for yourself inside that pocket before you abandon it. Part of that is stepping up. That's kind of the last development of the pocket before it collapses on the quarterback. You step up, and that's one of the places where that's going to be one of the pockets of space, if you will. And I think for him, he's working on that to step up more rather than staying deep in the pocket. And he can stay deep in the pocket because he can make all the throws. A lot of guys stepping up in the pocket so they can help them make better throws. He will, and we know this is a bad thing too, he will make throws where his footwork is not aligned with his mechanics because he's got that much of a golden arm. He can make those kind of throws. And now he's talking about stepping up in the pocket. That will help him. That's more the natural throwing motion and step up. And the timing of it should actually track with the depth of the receivers and getting through his progressions. And I think that's kind of what he's working on. So if Quinn improves there, that Texas could take a huge leap in terms of their sacks allowed number from last year to this year over year. So hopefully that's more on Quinn. We'll get to that. Good stuff there. We'll come back to Texas football, because in Rod's Round the Day, we'll talk about what adjustments, what tweaks Sark could and should make based on the latest developments in training camp, losing your starting running back, losing another depth piece in Christian Clark at the running back position. And what can we expect Sark to do to now start to pivot to a new identity? And what different strategies and tactics and different schemes can Sark deploy that will not only make up for the loss that you had in the running game and that talent advantage that you lost, you can make up for that. But also, I think for just him as a strategist now. How can you start to forge a new identity offensively? And your identity should be based on your strengths. What are you good at? What do you do as well, if not better than everybody else? That's going to be your identity. And I think for Sark, he wants balance ultimately. That's usually kind of part of his identity is the balance. This year may be the time to forsake some of that balance. And we'll discuss that when we get into Rod's Rant of the Day and talk some Texas football. All right, before we do that, though, we'll get you your Horn headlines, and then we'll talk about the low ball offer reportedly the Cowboys have thrown out there to CeeDee Lamb. This may be one of the reasons that contract negotiation seems to have hit a stalemate, if you will, because Clarence Hill is reporting that they're far apart. We'll tell you why that is. Also, we'll get into the ESPN top 100 list, top 100 ranking of the best players in college football. Pro Football Focus, they rank their top 50 players in college football. We'll look at both of those, look at where the Longhorns are ranked and some of their opponents that they have to play. And then we'll give you a Rangers report in the hour as well before we get out of here. So we're jam-packed. Don't go anywhere. But first, let's get educated, updated, and informed on all the top stories of the day with my man Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros will look to continue their run as the hottest team in baseball and add to their 8-game win streak as they take on the struggling White Sox tonight. The Astros have a .617 win percentage since April 27th and now have a 3-game lead in the AL West. While in comparison, the White Sox have a win percentage of .260 and are 15 games behind the second worst team in MLB. Spencer Argetti will get the call for the Astros following up telling double-digit strikeouts in his last 2 outings. And the Rangers went to the bottom of the ninth, tied for the second straight game, but they were not able to pull out the victory last night as the Twins manufactured a run on a sacrifice fly to win 3-2. Cody Bradford pitched 6 solid innings, and Adolis Garcia put together a 3-hit game, but it wasn't enough as the Rangers dropped the series opener. Andrew Heaney takes the mound tonight with the Rangers hoping to even the series. And in the NFL, the Eagles got the win in their preseason matchup against the Patriots 14-13 after a late 2-point conversion for Philadelphia. This Saturday, the Texans will take on the Giants in Houston at noon, and the Cowboys play a late game against the Raiders at 9 p.m. in Oakland. And the Atlanta Falcons added another defensive player after making the trade for Matthew Judon by signing safety Justin Simmons to a 1-year deal. Simmons now joins Jesse Bates to form one of the best safety combinations in the NFL. That is your Horn headlines.
All right. Thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. Let's get to a headline coming out of Dallas. My man Clarence Hill of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. He is reporting there's a gap still in between the demands of CeeDee Lamb and what the Cowboys are willing to offer. And he claims that they're not even close, actually, that they're actually far apart. And per his report from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, the Cowboys' offer to CeeDee Lamb hasn't reached $33 million per year. So has not even reached $33 million per year. They say while Lamb is looking for a deal closer to Justin Jefferson's deal of $35 million in average annual value, they're not even at 33. So yes, it's only a difference of $2 to $3 million. So it will be something the Cowboys can easily make that. They can up that offer. It's not a big deal. I worry now that you've offended CeeDee Lamb by not even getting to 33. And remember, that's the number I threw out there as the sweet spot, right in between Justin Jefferson's $35 million and right above the Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tyreek Hill's there above that $30 million group, but right in between. I'm sure AJ Brown's maybe in that group too, but you want to be, I think making him the second highest paid receiver at $33 million might have been more palatable for him, or acceptable. But if you're going below 33, you haven't reached it yet, it means you've probably upped your offer a couple of times already. And you're still not at 33 million, which means you started at 28 million or something like that, which means that was a laughable offer that he probably scoffed at. So I don't know why the Cowboys are being so stubborn about this, because your offense without CeeDee Lamb, I heard a article at the Ringer is a great article talking about the Cowboys. And basically, the Cowboys offense turns into the Iowa offense in the Big Ten without CeeDee Lamb. That's basically what it is. They really don't have anything on the offense that threatens you defensively without CeeDee Lamb. I mean, and Dak's great, but he's going to be limited by his weapons if he doesn't have at least one player who demands a double team and has gravity. And that's what CeeDee Lamb has. CeeDee Lamb has gravity. Gravity means he's going to attract defenders to him. So you got your two defenders you're going to allocate to stop CeeDee Lamb or neutralize him. Then we got numbers advantages elsewhere. Now we can start building a game plan. Then Jake Ferguson's matched up on linebacker. Then Brandon Cooks can beat one-on-one or your third best coverage defender, whatever it is. That's when the game plan starts falling in place. But without CeeDee Lamb, none of that happens. So I don't know what they're waiting on with CeeDee Lamb. We gave you the discussion about the Dak Prescott contract and his status and his contract negotiations with the Dallas Cowboys earlier. And if the Cowboys, like I said, they would just act it a little bit, sooner, if they would have had a little bit more urgency about the CeeDee Lamb contract, they would have saved themselves a lot of money. I think before this offseason, this has been the offseason of the wide receiver. Before this offseason, you had one wide receiver making above at $30 million a year. And before this offseason, you had 0 wide receivers that had at least $75 million guaranteed in their deals. And now you got 4 of those. They're making 30 plus million. Hell, Justin Jefferson got 80 something million in a signing bonus. I don't know why this is taking so long for the Cowboys. It's got to be really frustrating for Cowboys fans. I'm just an outsider on the outside looking in. All right, let's hit the ESPN and the Pro Football Focus top 50. I won't go through, obviously, everybody on the list. I'll give you the Longhorns that are on the list of the top 50. You have Kelvin Banks at number 9, and you have Quinn Ewers at number 38 on the Pro Football Focus top 50 listing. I've been paying attention to really the opponents, the elite opponents that Texas is going to play. And out of this top 50 list, Texas is going to play 10. 10 players in the top 50, 7 of those on defense. I believe the only offensive ones are Carson Beck, the guard, Ratledge out of Georgia, too. Carson Beck, of course, the quarterback from Georgia. And I think the other one is the tight end, Colston Loveland from Michigan. Those are the 3 on offense. But and that top 50 list, you go look at it. That you got 7 of them on defense. And to me, I think it says a lot about, and there's also, by the way, that is the case for the ESPN top 100. I looked at the entire top 100 list, and you had 20 players total. So it kind of tracks, right? 10 and 10. You had 20 players total on that list that you were going to face, and 12 of them are on defense on the top 100 list. Now you have 5 Longhorns on that top 100 list. I mean, you had 2 Longhorns in the Pro Football Focus top 50 list. ESPN's top 100 list, you got 5 Longhorns. You got Kelvin Banks and Quinn Ewers. They make it their number 9, and Quinn Ewers is number 23, so a little bit higher in ESPN's listing for Quinn Ewers. And then they got a Trey Moore in the top 50. They got him 49th. On ESPN's top 100 list, Anthony Hill at 64th, and Isaiah Bond at 86. So you got 5 Longhorns listed in the ESPN top 100 list. But getting back to the defensive players you're going to face, you got 20 players you're going to face, period, on that top 100 list, and 12 of those are on defense. And I even did the calculations, or at least the projections, looking at these guys and their draft prospects. There are at least 4 potential, I would say almost guaranteed, 4 first-round picks you're going to face, unless, knock on wood, they get hurt. Michigan's going to have 2 of them. Best D tackle in college football in Mason Graham. Best cornerback in Will Johnson. And then you'll face Kentucky. They have one of the best D tackles, Deion Walker, in college football. He's probably the 2nd best D tackle in college football behind Mason Graham. He'll be drafted in the 1st round. Mikael Williams is a defensive lineman from Georgia. This is a guy that's he's gonna basically win the combine, and he's gonna test out very freaky. They're already talking about him. I saw Jordan Reed over at ESPN, who's a draft analyst, have Mikael Williams as his sneaky number 1 overall pick. That's his sleeper, if you will, to be the number 1 overall pick in the draft. So that's 4 guys that project to be first round picks, and it's not including guys like Landon Jackson from Arkansas, who some people say he's a borderline first round, second round guy. Nick Scourton from Purdue transferred to A&M. You might be talking about one of the best pass rushers, if not the best pass rusher potentially in the SEC. He's got that kind of potential. Malachi Starks will be the top safety off the board in the draft. That may be in the first round. Top safety is kind of like being top running back. Doesn't mean you're going to be a first rounder just because you're the top at that specific position, because they're not premium positions. But those are 3 other guys who will be borderline. So you could have 4 to 7 first round picks. I say they'll probably end up at 5. I think you're going to end up playing 5 first round picks next year on defense. That's how many you're going to face. And a lot of those on the defensive line. Matter of fact, most of those on the defensive line. Michigan's Mace Graham, Deion Walker, also D tackle, Mikael Williams on the defensive line, Landon Jackson on the defensive line, Nick Scourton on defensive line. So that offensive line will be tested. It's almost like that question. The topic for the Big Fat Poll today from Patrick is, appropriate. It's the timing of it is perfect because we're talking about Texas playing a lot of really good defensive linemen, and Texas hasn't really had a slate of D linemen that they're going to play of this ilk playing in the Big 12. Yeah, they saw Bama last year. And I will say this, that year, 2022, Kelvin Banks' first year, that year was that year was a strange year for the Big 12 in that there were a lot of first-round defensive linemen in the Big 12 that year, if you remember. Remember Kelvin Banks faced like 4 first-round DNs that year as a true freshman? Now Will Anderson was Bama that year, but there was Wilson from Texas Tech. He ended up being a top 10 pick, I believe. Tyke Wilson from Texas Tech. Will McDonald from Iowa State was a first round pick, and Udike Uzoma. He ended up being out of K-State. Remember, I think he ended up being defensive player of the year in the Big 12, and I believe he ended up being a first round pick as well. So he faced 4 first round picks that year, and 3 of them were in the Big 12. So there have been times where Texas has faced multiple elite high level edge defenders and defensive linemen, and we're up to the task. And I think they'll be up to this task, but it will be ratcheted up a notch. There's no doubt about it. And this, I would say that Michigan game where you'll face the best D tackle duo in college football with Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham, and the best cornerback in college football, 7, 8 NFL guys on that defense. And you'll have a defensive coordinator in Wink Martindale, who's an NFL guy too. Cannot wait to see how Texas responds. If you want to see if Texas offensive line is going to have problems pass protecting, you'll know everything you need to know about that second game. And honestly, if you need to know if Texas can run the football, you'll probably know everything you need to know about a second game. If they can run the football on that Michigan team, they'll be able to run the football on anybody in the SEC. And if they can pick up the games and the exotic pressure packages that Wink Martindale is going to throw at them, I'm not really worried about. Maybe Kirby Smart in Georgia can do something a little bit more, but if they can handle that, they'll be able to handle whatever the SEC is going to throw at them. So really good test in that second game of the season for Texas. All right, so there you go. Pro Football Focus top 50, 2 Longhorns listed. Kelvin Banks at 9, Quinn Ewers at 38, and you'll face 10 players in their top 50. And then in Pro Football Focus, in ESPN's top 100, 20 players you're going to face on their schedule that's ranked in that top 100. And they have Quinn Ewers at 23, and they got Kelvin Banks at number 9 in their ranking, along with Isaiah Bond at 86, I believe, in that ranking. And then you also have Trey Moore. He's at 49, barely cracks that top 50. And then there's Anthony Hill. He's at 64 on that list. All right, that's the 100 ranking for the Longhorns. I want to get into, we're up against the break, so we'll push it. We'll push our Rangers report, and we'll push Rod's rant of the day to next segment. Rod's rant, we're talking about possible adjustments and tweaks that Sark could make, maybe should make, schematically, tactically, strategically, to compensate for the losses of Cedric Baxter and some of the depth in the running back room. I got some ideas. I'll share those with you on the other side, right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. I want to get into possible solutions for the Texas offense, given the tough news and the injury bug already hitting the running back room, losing C.J. Baxter and Christian Clark. So you lose some of your depth pieces, but also losing your starting running back. And I'm sure every coach has a vision for how they want their offense to look, how they think it's going to look during this season. And great quote from my DB coach, or one of my DB coaches when I played in the NFL, Ray Horton, who'd always say, yeah, football and life are both constant struggles deciding between what you want to be and what you need to be in order to survive. So plan accordingly. And what we want to be in life sometimes got to be is very different than what we need to be to pay the bills, right? And to survive. And I think, like you said, coaching can be the same way. So I think for Sark, he had a vision for what he wanted to be. And now he may need to pivot to what he needs to be. And Sark wants to be balanced. That's his ultimate goal, balance. You will look at the sample of his 3 years on the 40 acres, probably a little over 50% pass, maybe 52% pass, maybe 48% run. I mean, he tries to strike balance and moderation as much as he can within his offense. And I do think this may be the season to alter that philosophy just a little bit, or to deviate from it just a little bit. So I got some ideas that I think will help Texas boost the running game, but also help them forge an identity now that the running game may not necessarily be a strength for them. And I think your identity should be determined by your strength. Whatever you're good at, if you're good at that, that's what you should go with, right? And if you're, whatever you hang your hat on, that becomes your identity over time. You just get better and better. You cultivate it even more. You refine it even more. So here's a couple of my ideas, and I've thrown some of these out there already, right? I think your early game, early down pass rate needs to increase. I've talked about that ad nauseum. And Sark, when he's being really creative, and just go look at his early game scripts or early down, early game pass rate in those big games like Oklahoma in the Big 12 title game, or versus a ranked K-State, or even in that Alabama game, the pass rates are 55% or higher in terms of the pass rate early in the game, first half, first and second down. And Sark has admitted he has a 40-play script, which is a pretty expansive script. So that can pretty much take up most of the first half. That's why we're looking at first half, because I think a lot of that is scripted for Sark. And then he's off script in the second half of games. You're kind of going with what works, but troubleshooting with a lot of the script in the first half. But I think when you come up with that game plan, lean on Quinn. I mean, he's your third-year starting quarterback in that system. He'll now be able to talk to Sark in the headset, so they can now work out the pre-snap stuff together, which will be a huge advantage, especially for Sark, who's already done that in the NFL. A lot of coaches have not had that experience. And you got the deepest wide receiving core you've had since Sark has been at Texas, 6 deep at the wide receiving core potentially. So he's expanding the circle of trust, and you're losing bodies at running back. Your strength is in the passing game. A 4 or 5 offensive line returning, that's your strength. So I think you should lean into your strength, which is the passing game. So early game, early down pass rate should increase, should be between 55 and 60%. Hell, if you go look at Sark's first drives, the first drive of every game, you know what his pass rate is on the first drive of every game? It's upwards of 75%. Just take the first drive of every game, 75% pass rate. He wants to pass. The run for him is him being disciplined. That's him exercising discipline. So like, no, I got to run because I need that balance. This year, I think he should be, I always say Sark's a moderate. He should be more of an extremist, especially when it comes to early game, early down pass rate without your starting running back and with some injuries at the running back position. When you're moving guys into the running back room, my favorite option of moving guys in the room, we've talked about Darian Gillette, we've talked about Ryan Niblett, is Juan Davis. I really do think, now in addition to being your wildcat quarterback, which he fits perfectly because he played quarterback in high school, so he's used to taking the snap, number one. That's the basic fundamental of it. Can you get the snap, secure the snap, and ball security? He can do that for you. But I would like to see him, and I've said this before, become the Kyle Juszczyk to Sark's offense. And he knows how to use a Kyle Juszczyk because he followed Kyle Shanahan in Atlanta. He fused and hybridized a lot of his concepts and ideas because he did not want to discard and break away from that offense cold turkey. One of the products of that was his pony package that we see utilized on the 40 acres. So he has the plays And he talks about how he admires that McShanahan coaching tree, so he can just go to that playbook and grab some of the same concepts about how Shanahan uses Kyle Juszczyk as a traditional fullback at times, but now so as a new age, modern, progressive fullback as well, putting him in the flex, putting him offset, putting him in line tight end, putting him as a slot at times, putting him out wide at times, just moving him everywhere around the formation, hunting matchups. And Juan Davis can do that. Played receiver in high school, at tight end, of course. There are times where he is utilized, deployed as a slot, flex, offset. I think you can use him in the same way, and he'd be a really good blocker at just a traditional fullback. And then you can bring back some of your two-back sets, not the pony package, but at least a 21 personnel with Juan Davis in the backfield. I think that'd be great. He'd be great in the screen game because Sark loves his tight end screens and screens to running backs. He'd be great in the screen game too. I think a Kyle Juszczyk type role for Juan Davis is what I envision for him. Also, since we're talking about throwing more on early downs, you don't want to be throwing downfield on early downs, right? You want to insulate the pass protection by getting the ball out quickly. So we're not talking about long developing routes downfield. And with that being said, I think Sark should increase the quick game. The quick game is mostly 0 to 9 yards, the depth you're talking about here. You're talking about anything from 0 steps to 3 steps. So 0, 1, 2, or 3 step drops. That's your quick game footwork for the quarterback. About 55% of Sark's offense is quick game. That's a healthy amount. The NFL is close to 60%. And I think Sark should be at 60%. I think he should be at 60% or higher in terms of his quick game rate. It's just an extension of the running game. They're long handoffs, muscle memory throws for Quinn Ewers, second nature throws for Quinn Ewers, whether it be the screen game, whether it be a quick slant, quick out, RPO is a combination of the quick game and the run game, more quick game. And I guess basically saying that more RPO because the RPO is a combination of the quick game and the run game. So I think that is something that can increase. That would help them out, right? You can still move the chains that way. I think also something you look at is the screen game itself, because Sark is one of the more creative, innovative, sophisticated screen designers in football at any level, NFL or college. Right now, Sark's screen rate, at least last year, was 18%. There are teams in the SEC that are higher. Florida's at 19%. Georgia's over 23%. Tennessee's over 25%. So I think, Oklahoma's over 22%. I think Sark should try to get close to that category where you're above 23%, 22% screen rate. Because screen rates, there's a very low turnover rate in screen throws because it's a really simple throw. It's behind the line of scrimmage, essentially makes it a handoff, a long handoff, and essentially they work almost like a run play as well in terms of the low risk but high reward. So up the screen game, increase the screen game. If I'm sorry, I think that's something that will help out. Also, I would throw out there, if you're Sark and you're looking at it, I know this is something weird, but scoring first. It's strange, and I know it's like, what do you mean scoring first? Scoring first, I don't know why it matters so much, but it does in football. The number I got from the NFL, the last 10 years, teams that score first in any way in the NFL, the last 10 years, 64% win percentage in the last 10 years. Crazy. And they can do as long as you score. All right, you score first, 64% win percentage. You go look. I went and pulled this stat from the first 2 weeks 0 and 1 of the college football season a couple of years ago, and their numbers are even more staggering: 78% win percentage for teams that scored first in those weeks in the college football level, at the college football level, I should say. I have no idea. I think it's confidence has got to be a big part of it. Not sure why it translates, and it can be any kind of score. We're talking about field goal or touchdown, but scoring first matters. And Sark has lost at Texas the last 2 years, 7 games, and Texas failed to score first in 6 of those 7 losses. The opponent scored first in 6 of the 7. The 6 of the last 7 losses Texas had in the last 2 years. Yeah, exactly. I don't get it either, but I'm just going with the numbers. Score first. Put an emphasis on it. Put an emphasis on scoring first, right out of the gate. And that, a lot of that goes to his opening script. And getting back to that number I told you, he throws the football 75% of the time on the opening drive because he wants to throw early in the game, and then he wants to close with the run. So that fits. But now I'm saying, hey, just make sure you're scoring first. Just score before they do. Just try to emphasize that. Something else that I think will boost the running game, and this is one of those trends that is starting to decrease in the SEC a little bit. Wide receivers in the running game, like basically handoffs to wide receivers in the running game, whether it be a jet sweep or whether that be sometimes they line these guys up in the backfield and give them a toss. There are other times where with different types of motion, orbit return motion, it works like a handoff to these guys. But if you look at wide receiver run opportunities in the SEC, they're down year over year 20%. And it goes back to something I've said before. Sark should look at trends in the SEC that are decreasing on the decline, and he should try to take advantage of those. Now, look at things in the SEC that teams don't do well, or that they don't do a lot of, that they don't see a lot. They're unfamiliar with. And Sark should shock the SEC, shell shock the SEC with a lot of those concepts. I.e., when Saban said squeeze splits, that he hates going up against Sark because Sark has to squeeze splits, condense compressed sets, reduce splits by the wide receivers, tight formations. And what does that mean? Well, for me, it means he doesn't see it a lot in the SEC, because otherwise he'd have already adapted to it, and Sark wouldn't be so, his offense wouldn't be so intimidating because of that unique conceptual signature. But it is, and that's why he doesn't like going against Sark's offense, because he doesn't see it as much in the SEC. So Sark should increase his rate. He should increase his rate of using condensed and compressed sets, because if he gives Nick Saban problems, he's going to give everybody else in that damn conference problems too. I feel like that about like things like pre-snap motion, right? Sark is about 55% pre-snap motion rate. Hell, man, the Dolphins are at 80+%. The 49ers are at 75%. The LA Rams, Sean McVay, he's over 65% pre-snap motion. Sark should be there, because pre-snap motion is also one of those things in the SEC that is it's increasing. But if you look at it overall in the last like 5 years or so, it's not increasing at a rapid rate. Like, that's something that Sark could take advantage of, and he can be on the, it can be ahead of that curve. So take things that the SEC they're unfamiliar with, and shell shock them with them. Because the question ultimately will be, is the SEC going to have to adapt to Sark, or is Sark going to have to adapt to the SEC? And you want it to be the former. Speaking of adapting to the SEC, I think Sark should also, he should use that 6-0 line package, that Big 11, Big 12 package with Malik Agbo as the extra offensive lineman. And you're thinking to yourself, well, yeah, more beef on the offensive line so we can run the ball more. Not exactly. Actually, year over year from 2022 to 2023, Texas actually dropped in yards per rush out of the 6-0 line package. What increased was yards per attempt. Increased actually by 5 yards. Your yards per attempt increased because teams were expecting to run with all that beef out there in mass. But Sark was brilliant, and as I always put it, present power personnel packages and pivot to play action pass principles. But he skipped the play action part. Because actually, if you go look at it, Sark's play action, screen, RPO, pass attempts make up about 65% of their pass attempts. So maybe a third are actual true straight drop back situations. Well, out of the 6-0 line package, you're talking about upwards of a 50% straight drop back rate. So basically, he used it as a package to insulate Quinn Ewers in pass protection, give him another blocker, and then hit some long developing routes downfield, which, hey, it works for me. It worked then. I think it'll work in the SEC too. So even if you just want to run the ball out of it, you could, but throwing the ball out of it is much more effective. That's also something I think Sark should look into. Also, the red package at Alabama, this was a 10 personnel package with 4 wide receivers on the field at one time, and it was his 4 first-round wide receivers. So you don't have that like you did at Alabama, but you do have the deepest wide receiving core you've had in a long time, and deploying 4 wide receivers on the field at one time, maybe a Jaden Blue in the backfield, and then you can go empty formation with that and just shock your opponents with a ton of speed. Because of the death of Mike Leach, 10 personnel, another one of those trends in the SEC that is flatlining and actually declining. So they don't see it a lot. They're unfamiliar with it. And you can really wreck their world with a concept like that. All right. I think I got most of it in. I got just a few of the things I think Sark needs to maximize and weaponize in terms of those concepts, strategies, and tactics that'll lead him to an identity on offense. And I think the identity is going to be built through the passing game. All right, let's get to our Rangers report while we got a little time here. Not a lot to hit, but we got some nuggets.
The Rangers Report is brought to you by Texas Truck and Trailer.
All right, Rangers lost to the Twins in their last game, a 3-2 loss, heartbreaking for the Rangers, who are hoping to keep hope alive, if you will. Their playoff hopes alive. It's not looking good right now. The Rangers, as it stands today, 10 games behind Houston and 3rd in the AL West, matching their biggest division deficit of the season.
Yeah.
So it's getting worse.
Yeah,
Rangers,
40 games to go in the season for the Rangers. They really needed that win last night. They got it to the 9th inning, all tied up. You expect Kirby Yates has been playing really, really well. It's not a save opportunity, but they basically are just able to manufacture a run. There was also a really sad play. They got an inside the park home run in that game. The Twins did, where it was going to be a triple. It was a good enough hit, and then there was an error going to third, so he gets home for the score. So just really disappointing that you're not able to get that win. But the positive is Adolis Garcia looks like he's starting to come back on.
He
and
looks good.
He's starting to hit really well. You need a couple other guys to kind of join him and start playing well, because you're going to have to go on a historic tear to get back into this conversation.
Yeah, Adolis Garcia had 3 hits, his 5th time in 7 games with multiple hits. He is hitting .484 in that time span, ladies and gentlemen. His RBI single in the first inning came before Josh Young's sacrifice fly put Texas up 2-0. Remember, they scored multiple runs in the first inning for the first time since July 23rd, and every Rangers fan's thinking, oh, man, we got this one wrapped up. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
and
10 runs in the game the night before, so you think,
yes,
all right, the offense is awoken.
Yeah, they're feeling good. That's a good point. Yeah, so like, this continued from last night, and then the Rangers had their 10th game this year, not scoring again after a run in their first at bat. It was their 10th game this year, not scoring again after scoring a run in their first at bat. Wow. All 8 hits were singles, ending 39 consecutive games since June 29th with an extra base hit. That was the longest active streak in the majors, actually. Yeah, sorry, Rangers fans. It ain't looking good.
No, not looking good.
I'll keep it real for you in the Rangers report. All right, thank you to our friends at Texas Truck and Trailer. We'll come back here. We'll get into our Who Said That segment. That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond, and based on the context clues or familiarity of the voice, you have to guess who said that. We'll play that when we come back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the Horn.
The Rangers Report is brought to you by Texas Truck and Trailer, your premier truck accessory dealer.
Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. That's when Patrick, the Idealionaire, my co-host, plays jams from local bands and artists, very talented human beings that you have a chance to catch live right here in the ATX. Who are we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Big Bill, and they are playing Saturday at Hole in the Wall.
I like that. Nice. All right. You can also go check out Patrick's work on the X account of the Horn ATX on X. And the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day is posted. A Texas football related topic. How many sacks per game will Texas allow this season? That is what Patrick wanted to know from you guys. And I believe 59% of you voting said Texas will allow between 1 to 2 sacks. Which
will improve from last season.
Yes. That'll improve. You're right, because last season they were right at 2. I think as long as they're below 1.5, as long as they're below 1.5, they'll be good.
Yes.
Yeah. The below 1.5, that means you're going. I think that'll put you probably top 20, probably top 20, probably top 30 in sacks allowed nationally. You said they were 80 last year. Yeah. So definitely got to be better than that. All right. There you go. It's topic for the Big Fat Poll. Go check that out at the Horn ATX. All right. Now it's time for Who Said That? That's when my man Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world, and based on the context clues or familiarity of the voice. Hopefully you can identify and recall who said that.
I got to ask you about the guy who just left. How much are they going to miss him? And who's going to step up in his place?
Yeah, I miss Bill. That was one of my favorite coaches. But, Mayo, he's a great leader. He knows what he's doing with us. And, yeah, I'm excited for Mayo, and I think we can get it done with him.
I wasn't talking about Mayo. I'm talking about good defensive teammate.
Oh, Judon.
He's moving on to better places.
Yeah. Excited.
At least a different place.
For a different place. Excited for him. I still know he has a couple more years in him, so I'm excited for him.
Right. But this defense is stepping up.
Yeah, defense is doing great.
Wow, that was awkward. That was a little bit awkward. The guy should just let it go.
Yeah, that's fine.
Be like,
I
you know
they
what?
threw it to him or something, and so he had to go to it. I don't know.
Maybe because I would just let him answer the bill, and then I'd be like, "Hey, tell me about another former Patriot. Let's talk about Matthew Judon." And I just because it's like when somebody calls me the wrong name or something. Somebody calls me like, "Hey, Rob, you're awesome." And I go, "Thank you."
Yes.
Thank you very much. Like, why am I going to waste 5 minutes correcting you? You ain't mean no harm. You're trying to give a shout out to me. I'm like, thank you. Like, I'm fine with that. It's all good. Call me Rob. I've been listening to you forever, Rob. Well, it's okay. You called me Rob. You've been listening for 10 years. It's all right. I don't care. I'm just happy you're listening. All right. There you go. So, yeah, you know what? Don't make other people feel bad about just a mistake like that. Just move on. All right. Good stuff there, Patrick. That was Ramondre Stevenson, by the way. The Patriots running back there. Good stuff there, Patrick. Great stuff as always. Appreciate everything you do. You're the real MVP. Also, we appreciate all you guys for listening. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We'll talk about it right here on the Rodcast. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves, but more importantly, take care of each other. And have a great weekend. Until next time, hook 'em and peace.